My psycho landlord is literally trying to drive me out of my rental house, as she was pissed off that I was allowed to move in instead of her friend, thus making it her life's goal to make me as miserable as possible. But thankfully, karma was on my side as I got back at her and got some fantastic revenge in a way that literally forced her to move out. Here's how I did it. Years ago, I moved into a duplex from a very nice owner who was honest and reasonable. And when I got there, I put down this healthy security deposit and I moved in. Well, unfortunately, he was not my day-to-day contact. That was this delightful and charming woman who we will call Sarah for the sake of the story. She was basically the on-site landlord, and I found out later that she was a tenant who the owner made an arrangement with. Now, in return for cutting her rent in half, which is a sweet gig in and of itself, she collected and deposited the rental checks. She arranged for any repairs and handled any other day-to-day things. And the neighborhood had about 5 duplexes owned by this man. Now, it's important to know that Sarah hated me from day one, and what's more, she lived in the other half of the duplex. You know all the nightmare petty landlord stuff that you see on this subreddit? It's safe to say that Sarah ticked off all the boxes. She was a homeowners association style Karen, obsessed with all the rules. She yelled at my friends for parking an inch over on her side of the duplex. If my place wasn't stone quiet a minute after quiet time, like if the doorbell rang or if the phone went off, she would literally lose her mind. Also, the rental checks I dropped in the same mailbox slot I always did somehow just completely got lost constantly, and appliances and other things were just not fixed in anything resembling a timely manner, and the list just goes on and on. It was more annoying than awful. I told myself I could live with it as I was going to be moving closer to my job after my lease ran out. Later on, I found out why she hates me. She had wanted a friend of hers to move into the duplex that I got, but the owner said no because her credit check was awful and mine was sparkling clean. So she just wanted to make my life miserable out of pure spite. Well, as the end of my lease drew near, I noticed that my water heater was leaking. I dried the floor around it and then put some towels down just to try and mitigate the problem. Then I emailed Sarah, because trust me, I had wised up at this point, and I started keeping a digital timesheet of everything I ever said to this woman. And as you can probably guess, I got no response. Then a week later, I re-forwarded the email with a friendly, "Oh, you may have missed this, but this could be a real problem," but still, I got no response. I then sent another email by saying, "I had a friend who is a plumber look at it and he recommended immediately to do certain things to fix it." And finally, she responded by saying, "I'll look into it," and said nothing else. At this point, she was just trying to run the clock out on me. Now, it had been about a month now, and I was just a few weeks away from moving out. I saw Sarah watering her flowers, and I approached her and I mentioned it. She blew me off at first, but finished the conversation with a threat. "I hope you're keeping it clean around there. I'm a stickler when it comes to the final inspection. If you want to get any of your deposit back, you better be ready to pass a white glove inspection." So I thought to myself, okay then, if that's how you want to play it, then that's fine by me. I was trying to figure out how I would get petty revenge, but about a week later, right before my last rent check was due, I happened to see the owner in the neighborhood, and Sarah was nowhere to be found. And that's when it struck me how I can make all of this worse. I went out to say hello and tell him thanks for renting to me and that I appreciated that. He was very friendly and said that he was sorry that I was leaving, etc., and if I needed anything to please let him know. And that's when I knew this was checkmate. I asked him if he had a few minutes to come in and do the security deposit inspection, and he said, "Sure, I can do that." And we then went into my place together. As we were walking around looking at things, he was all positive. He said to me, "Yep, it looks great. There's no issues at all that I can see." But then we came to the water heater. I then paused dramatically and I said pretty solemnly, "I hope we can come to some kind of understanding about the floor around the water heater." I then opened the closet doors and I showed him. I told him what I'd been doing to fight the leak, and I pulled up the sopping wet towels that I put down the night before, and I told him I have experience with mold and that it was some nasty stuff. He then got quiet and said to me, "Well, have you told Sarah about this?" And I said to him, "Why, yes, I did. Here are a copy of the emails that I sent to her." He read them out and then noticed that I kept them in a file folder. He then looked at me and said, "Okay, are there other things that haven't been fixed?" And it's here that I showed him a few other emails that I had collected. He then got beet red in the face. He then said to me, "Okay, I think with what I've seen here, I'm fine with releasing your full security deposit." And in that moment, it struck me. I had one more rent check due, which was for $750. So I said to him, "Okay, well, how about instead of me writing you a check for $750, you just write me a check for $500 and I just write you a check for $250 and we call it even." He then shrugged and said, "Okay, sure." And we signed the paperwork and he left. A few days later, I dropped my check for $250 in the mail slot. And later that evening, Sarah pounded on my door, foaming at the mouth about how I didn't write a full check. She said that she can evict me if I don't write a check for the full amount right now. Well, it's here that I explain, conveniently omitting that the owner had done the inspection, that I wrote a check for $250 because my security deposit covered the $500 that was already there. Sarah's eyes eyes then widened as her brain tried to comprehend what I had just said. And it's here that she nearly exploded, yelling at me about how that's not how things are done around here, saying that I need to obey the rules like everybody else, and that apparently she has final say because she does the inspections. Well, friends, she literally had spittle flying out of her mouth. She was so enraged. I then calmly told her that the owner had done the inspection and signed off on the payment arrangement, and told her to talk to him and to get off my porch and quit bothering me. Then I very slowly closed the door on her and I didn't look back. Again, her brain froze and she went into lockdown trying to process what I had just said. And that is an image that I will forever remember. Before I moved out, the owner came by to ask if he can come in and fix the water heater for the next tenant, and I said to him sure. As he was working, we talked a little bit and he mentioned that his daughter was moving into my place and that she was going to take over the on-site landlord duties. I then asked the burning question about Sarah. Well, the owner simply said that she's going to be moving out because apparently she decided she can't afford to pay the full rent anymore, which is great to hear because it sounds like her gig finally ran out. Okay, I love this story so much, dude. I can't stand bad neighbors, especially when these neighbors are like, oh, I have power over your living situation. I'm gonna evict you if you don't pay the full amount. And it's like, dude, I can't stand people who are landlords who act like this, where they literally would never repair a single thing in your apartment, but then they're gonna turn around and be like, oh, I'm gonna get you out of here so fast. Either give me my money or you're gone. Meanwhile, the original poster is sitting there with a water heater that's leaking water all the time. Like, I don't know about you, but they could have called someone the week they found out about it and gotten that taken care of. But instead, they sit on it and they do nothing because they're terrible people. So good for you for getting that revenge and for effectively getting her kicked out of the house as well, because her attitude was completely unnecessary and it's so good to see you get back at her. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I took some petty revenge against an entitled Karen who was giving me some unnecessary problems at a car wash that I worked at. Here's what happened. So I work at a small car wash where business can go from dead silence to bustling with customers. We get all kinds every day and most of them are pretty tolerable, especially those who have a membership with us. How it works is that we give them a barcode sticker that has to go on their windshield and our scanners automatically let them through. Now, a lot of people just keep the sticker on a slip of paper and hold it up against the glass when they come through because apparently it's too much to ask for the bare minimum nowadays. It's also now a corporate policy we now have to enforce that if they have a membership, we cannot allow them in unless the sticker is up. Apparently, it keeps them from sharing passwords and whatnot. It's really dumb, but my bosses are on my butt about being firm with customers who refuse to cooperate. Now, a lot of them just argue with us for a minute and then either put the sticker up or just full on cancel their membership with us, which honestly, it's like, okay, good riddance. Earlier this week, I came face to face with a woman who looked like she was born to be a Karen. I'm talking blonde, short hair, the oversized glasses, the car that's too big for her to drive, and a high-pitched grating voice. She came through holding the sticker up, acting like I wasn't even there saying hello to her. When I kindly told her, hey, just so you know, we have a new policy that says you have to put your sticker on the window, she immediately cut me off and said, I know, they were telling me last time that I have to do it, but I haven't had time to and I'm not going to do it. Well, when she said this, I was simply stunned, but I kept my voice level and tried to explain further, but then she became an even bigger jerk. She said to me, I pay $27 a month, so I should be able to put it wherever I want. After reminding her that it's not my policy, she just dismissed me and drove through. After she came out and started messing around with the vacuums, I told her politely that she most likely won't be able to come back in next time if her sticker isn't up where it's supposed to be. She then looked fully annoyed at me and said, okay, well then I'll most likely be canceling my membership. And when she said this, internally I was literally doing cartwheels. But it wasn't enough to calm me down since I was seething from all the similar treatment me and my other coworkers have been going through, especially with this policy over the last few months. Once she left, I pulled up her account information with us, and after debating with myself for 30 minutes, I ended up changing her barcode to a different one. That way, if she does come through again, it's not going to work and possibly register her account as inactive. In a worst case scenario, we'll simply assign her a new one, and in the process, we will have to order her to put it on the windshield this time, and make sure that it happens since it takes 24 hours for a sticker to activate. Either way, she'll have to cooperate if she comes through again. Now, those of you out there who take it personally when we ask you to put a sticker up, your precious little windshield will look just fine with something on it. People do it every day and survive just fine. So take your first world problems and shove it. We're not asking you for a kidney, and 9 out of 10 times we don't even care what you do, but we are being ordered to enforce a stupid policy. We don't care how much you pay for your membership. Rules come with them for a reason, and we are overworked and underpaid people who deal with your unnecessary attitudes every single day. Just because you're the customer customer doesn't mean that you can talk to us like we're your little personal servants. We love to provide good service for people who treat us like people. And to the ones who don't, well, just know that we're most likely looking for ways to make sure that your experience is just as inconvenient as ours. Okay, I want to say that I completely understand where the original poster is coming from. They've been getting this kind of treatment from everybody for months now. They hate this policy just as much as anybody else because they're saying to themselves, oh my god, I now have to enforce something towards grown adults who are absolutely not going to listen. Like, I don't know about you, but I've been in this situation where you're trying to talk to customers or clients or patients or something like that, and the second you tell them what to do, they're going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, but who are you again? I don't have to listen to you. I can do whatever I want. And that is so frustrating because I know for a fact, and I've been there, that you don't want to deal with this in the first place. The policy is stupid. What you're asking of them, you don't even agree with, but you know for a fact if you don't do it, you're probably going to get fired, and that is way worse than pissing off this customer. So you just grit your teeth and bear it like you would with anything else, and it just sucks altogether. It's a terrible experience, and I know exactly what you're going through. So I personally love this petty revenge because, in my opinion, this entitled Karen absolutely deserved it. Am I overreacting by quitting my job on the spot after my boss rehired someone that I specifically asked them not to? Because right now I'm so pissed off that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my brother owns a business. However, he's had multiple stroke attacks, so he couldn't properly talk. I was asked to take his role because of his problem, and I was jobless at the time, and I've been working for almost 3 years now. It's basically a family business as my sister-in-law and my dad also work here too. Last week, my sister-in-law asked if a girl, let's call her Bella for the sake of the story, could come work with us again. And for reference, Bella worked at the business before, but she was asked to leave last year. And now I'm being asked if she could come back, but I said no. The reason why is because Bella slept with my father. And yeah, I bet you didn't see that coming. She has been sleeping with him in the past 2 years. I knew about this, and my siblings, including my sick brother and my sister-in-law, also knew about this too. We actually wanted to do something, but my mother asked us not to do anything to my father. And trust me, that's a story for another time. Well, I got mad because I have to watch this disgusting relationship in front of my eyes. I was enraged. I told my sister-in-law that I won't forgive her, but she said that it's urgent, so she needs to rehire Bella. So now I silently took all my stuff and I'm not going back to work this Monday. It's a silent quit, and I believe it's a deadly one, as I was basically the backbone of the operations of that business. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to just walk out and not come back Monday morning. Like, I would definitely try to find something else in the meantime, because holy crap, this is just already super messy. Like, I would actively try to find another job and not just be like, oh, I'm not coming back. I'm gonna silently quit because I'm the backbone of this operation. But I've got news for you. Everybody's replaceable, and they really will find someone else to do your job. So in my opinion, I think it would be better to try and start applying for other places than to just quit outright and be without a job. So yeah, you might be overreacting here, but I do think it is time to leave because your family clearly doesn't care about this lady, or the fact that she's the reason your dad's like been cheating on your mom. And while that is really unfortunate, you can also take a stand and not have anything to do with that. And I really think the best way to do this is by finding another job and then getting out of there. Did I overreact by kicking my partner out of my house after I discovered he had been with a girl while I was away from home? Because right now I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I'm just not sure what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my partner has been acting strange lately, constantly using our son as an excuse. He claims that our son's health issues are draining all the money, implying that it's my fault, even though I'm the sole breadwinner now. He lost his job after getting into a fight at his company, and over the past few months, I've noticed he's been complaining about everything, as if I was responsible for his termination. Recently, I took our son to therapy, but on my way, I called the hospital to confirm the appointment time. They then informed me that the appointment was actually scheduled for the next day and not that day. So instead of heading back home, I decided to visit a cafe to take care of some errands and grab some groceries before returning home. Keep in mind, therapy sessions usually last like 2 hours, and adding an extra hour for the bus ride to and from the hospital, I wasn't expecting to be back home so early. Well, apparently my partner didn't expect me to be home early either, so I literally caught him red-handed, and that's when I discovered he had bringing some lady back to our home while I was at work or at the hospital. Well, when I discovered this, I sent him out that day. And looking back, I'm left wondering if I was too oblivious or if I should have seen the signs earlier. So seriously, did I go too far in this situation? Because I just don't know if I'm in the wrong and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this guy was taking advantage of you. That is so unfortunate. Think about it. This guy literally tried to be like, I got fired and it's your fault, all while using your son between the two of you as some kind of excuse. Like, I'm sorry, sorry, I don't care what kind of stress you're under. Acting like that and trying to like blame your partner on you getting terminated all because you got to fight at work, that's like inappropriate. So in my opinion, I think getting rid of this guy and kicking him to the curb is like the best decision you made. He's also not the brightest person in the world because he brought some lady back to your house while you were gone. Like he clearly thought those few hours would have been enough time for him to meet with this lady and get away with it. But that decision in and of itself is so toxic and so dumb, dude. So no, you did not overreact by kicking him out. I think that's the only reasonable thing to do here because this guy was cheating on you and he clearly just did not want to do anything with his life. And with all things considered, you definitely do not deserve to be treated like this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for trying to write up an agreement after my sister-in-law asked if she could borrow a few $1,000s from me? Because right now she's trying to make it seem like I'm the jerk for writing up any kind of agreement between the two of us. And at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my sister-in-law needs some money on a short-term basis and she just needs a few $1,000s. And for me, I have a rule that for anything over $1,000, I need a basic contract. So I offered a loan with what I consider to be rather favorable terms. It would be a 15-year schedule, 12%. The lender can call for a balloon payment at the 60-month mark, no payments or interest for the first 6 months. Well, when I said this, she responded with an unwillingness to sign an agreement and that I should simply lend the money because she is good for it. She also mentioned to my wife that she does not like the idea that I'm trying to make money off of her. Now, I felt that my offer was extremely fair, and she had indicated an ability to pay the entire thing back in February, so in my mind, offering 6 months of no interest and no payments is materially aligned with her desires. And specifically, I'm not making any money off the deal, especially if the full repayment in February were to happen. I have been witness to friends and family loans turning into absolute disasters, which is why for me, anything under $1,000 is always just a gift from my point of view, and anything over $1,000 gets a basic agreement so that expectations are clear and both parties are protected. It's also important to note that she did not cast any dispersions or say anything negative to me, but I definitely kind of felt like a jerk here because her expectation was that I would just spot the cash with no type of agreement. But at the same time, I don't appreciate the communication to my wife that I'm trying to make money off of her. At the end of the day, I'm more than happy to float whatever they need for 6 months, but if circumstances change and I have cash locked up in something that doesn't pay any interest, for all intents and purposes due to inflation, I'm going to be perpetually paying a price beyond the initial loan amount. So seriously, am I the jerk here for wanting to have some kind of agreement because I honestly just don't know what to do anymore? Okay, I'm right there with the original poster because I think it's a very good idea to have something in writing. Do you know how many stories I've read on Reddit alone of people not doing this and then being screwed later on? Like, it is crazy the things that people will do just to like make sure they don't pay you money that they owe you. And you're not saying that your sister-in-law would do that, but like, dude, this at least gives peace of mind to the person giving out thousands of dollars, dude. So in my mind, I think this is the only reasonable thing to do. And the fact that your sister-in-law is unwilling to do it, in my opinion, is kind of showing her hand. It says that she wants the money without the commitment, and that is completely unacceptable, especially if she's claiming that she's good for the money. It's like, okay, if you're good for the money, then this should be no problem, right? So no, you're not the jerk here. I think you're making a good decision because if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. Am I overreacting at my roommate after they turned our living room into his girlfriend's walk-in closet without my permission? Because at this point, I basically have a third roommate who doesn't pay rent. And at this point, I'm very pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I live with 2 roommates. We've been friends for years, we split rent evenly, and up until recently, everything worked fine. One of them started dating someone a few months ago, and I thought to myself, okay, cool, happy for him. As a result, she started spending more time over at our place, which guess what? Also, completely fine. I'm not the type of person who doesn't want any guests in the house, but with that in mind, it's now become completely absurd. At some point over the past 2 weeks, all without even a basic conversation, she just started moving her stuff in. Not just a toothbrush or some clothing, I'm talking racks of clothes, multiple full-size bins of shoes, drawers, beauty products, mirrors, even one of those light-up vanity setups. And here's the best part. He put all of it in the living room, like our shared living room, the place where we eat, we hang out, we watch TV. It is now effectively her giant open closet. There are clothes hanging where our movie posters used to be. A literal rolling clothing rack is blocking half the couch. It looks like TJ Maxx exploded in there. And when I brought it up to him, very calmly might I add, he said it's temporary and that she's transitioning out of her old place. But she's never not here now. She's basically a third roommate except one who doesn't pay rent and whose stuff has evicted us from our own common area. I even asked him how long this temporary setup is supposed to last. And he just shrugged and said, oh, only a few more weeks, probably. basically. No apology, no offer to move her stuff elsewhere, and now I guess I'm just supposed to live around it. So I'm trying not to be dramatic about this, but is it really that unreasonable to expect a heads up before our main shared space becomes someone else's personal dressing room? So am I overreacting here because I really feel like I'm going crazy and I just don't know what to do? Okay, in my eyes, I think the way your roommate's acting is completely unfair because the original poster is 100% correct. This is intrusive, it's very rude, and it's inconsiderate of pretty much everybody in the living space. Like, I know for a fact if I lived there, I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, dude, this is like a shared space that we all use. Your girlfriend can't put all her crap here and expect me to be okay with it. Like, I don't think so. So no, you're not overreacting. This is a completely normal reaction, and you have every right to be pissed off because this is some weird behavior, and I don't blame you for being upset. My entitled mother refuses to let me leave her house after I got in a major car accident, refusing to allow me to go back to my apartment to my husband and my kids, all while she impersonates me to my insurance as well as to my landlord in some meticulous and complicated attempt to try and ruin my life. And after several months of trying to fight against what she did to me, I have finally cut them out of my life, and I'm currently working on trying to get my life back together. Here's what happened. So I was in a major car accident in January of 2021. Ironically, I had been taking my boyfriend to the ER because he had bleeding ulcers and ended up getting admitted to the hospital that night. This was still when they were enforcing COVID rules. So I was booted out of the hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I left, it was snowing, and not thinking, I hopped on the freeway, which wasn't a good idea. I had been driving a lifted Jeep Cherokee with the mud terrain tires, which is not the best ever for snowstorm driving. Getting off the freeway to go home, my brakes locked up, and I went into a light pole head first at about 60 miles an hour. My Jeep did not have airbags, which was really dumb. Needless to say, my car was totaled, and I had to be extracted from my car by the fire department. This whole time, I had been blacking out and losing consciousness, and I still get random flashes as I don't have all my memories from that night or several months after the accident. I got sent to the nearest trauma center, which was the same hospital I had just left. The nurses felt really bad about kicking me out. I ended up with a moderate to severe traumatic brain injury, a fracture under my left eye, and hairline fractures on my skull on the left side, as well as bruising behind my ears and black eyes. I also had cut open the inside of my mouth, had multiple lacerations all over my face, while also breaking some ribs and bruising them, and had hairline fractures in my spine. And if that wasn't enough, I broke my right wrist, my right knee, and my left foot, which required 2 surgeries, and I still need approximately 3 more. Needless to say, I was not doing great. I had recently gotten divorced the previous year, and I think that my entitled parents decided that my accident was my boyfriend's fault. I had to stay in the hospital for a total of 12 days, in which case the mild family drama exploded into a severe family inferno. As I got closer to being released, all I had wanted to do was to just go home to be with my boyfriend and our kids, but my entitled mother had other plans, as she decided that wasn't gonna happen. On the phone, we sounded almost identical. The whole time that I was in the hospital, she had been getting on the phone and impersonating me to my apartment complex manager, even going as far as calling the cops to get my boyfriend and his 2 kids removed from my apartment. My entitled mother also forged my signature on hospital paperwork and made up a story about how my boyfriend was being really terrible towards me and got him banned from seeing me at the hospital. Again, forging my signature and writing a letter stating that I didn't want to see him. The whole time I was still suffering from the effects of my traumatic brain injury, and I was delirious from the combination of pain medications as well as the brain fog from my head injury. My entitled mother even had the locks changed on my apartment without my consent. When I finally was released from the hospital, I was in a wheelchair because of my broken foot that just had 2 plates and 10 screws surgically put in to hold it together, as well as an ankle to hip brace on my other leg since my knee was also broken. I requested to go home to my apartment, but again, my entitled mother played it off that I couldn't go home because I had a 2nd-story apartment and I couldn't take care of myself there. So I got sent to stay at my parents' house against my will, an hour away from home, because my entitled mother wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to let my boyfriend come back to my apartment. I spent almost a whole miserable month there with my entitled entitled mother refusing to take me home even after I got crutches and was able to bear some weight. Initially, they even refused to go get me crutches from town because they did not want me to have more mobility. Eventually, it got to the point where I had a friend come and pick me up from my mom's house so I could go home because they literally kept refusing to let me go. As I gained clarity in my mind and was taken off the intense pain medication, I was able to start rectifying the situations that my entitled mother made a huge mess of in my life. But still to this day, I'm trying to recover in some areas. I didn't find out until much later when medical bills started coming in that my entitled mother had called my boyfriend's health insurance company, impersonating me by the way, and had me removed from his insurance. It took months of calling and badgering, as well as footwork on my part, just to get the situation figured out and have the insurance pay for what they were supposed to pay for. It almost caused me to go completely bankrupt. At the same time, my entitled mother signed me up for minimal health insurance coverage through the state that I'm in, and I had no idea I was enrolled in it in the first place until I got a bill later stating that I owed them money. Needless to say, I eventually completely cut off my entitled mother and my father out of my life after finding out how much they tried to control and how much they tried to mess up my life. I ended up getting protection orders after they tried to break into my house, stalk me, and sent family and friends over to harass me. This whole incident was the last straw that broke the camel's back. There was quite a bit of retaliation on their side that threw my life into a total tailspin. Ever since, I'm sticking to my values and not backing down. And hopefully I never have to deal with them ever again. What an absolute crazy situation to be stuck in. These people quite literally stole you away from your life and prevented you from doing anything in your life altogether. And your mom even impersonated you on the phone and took you off of your insurance. I mean, what an absolute nightmare, especially after going through such a traumatic situation. The fact that she did all this basically to derail your life is seriously unbelievably toxic and probably illegal. Hopefully all of this works out, because based on what you've described, this is a very serious situation now. I mean, this lady committed fraud. She forged your signature, she pretended to be you just to get you off of your insurance, and she kicked out your boyfriend from your apartment. I mean, this lady literally went to extreme lengths just to try and ruin your life. So hopefully you never have to deal with her again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My sister-in-law is spreading some toxic lies about me and my husband, and despite the fact that I stood up for myself and put her in her place, I now feel more isolated in my extended family than I ever have before in my entire life, and I honestly don't know what to do. So myself and my husband have been married for 10 years, and we've been together for 12 overall. During that time, we have dealt with my husband's estranged father, who often vented about his problematic sister, my husband's aunt. This specific aunt has tormented the entire family, and everyone has cut off communication with this aunt. For example, this problematic aunt was recently found guilty of forging a signature on their grandfather's deathbed for the entire inheritance. Over the last 12 years, we've tried to help his father, who was mostly unresponsive and avoidant, but the relationship remained strained, and he passed away this past summer. My husband and I planned the funeral with the help of my husband's aunts and uncles on his dad's side. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law opted out of helping plan the funeral because they said it was too painful and stressful to handle. We understood, but we were greatly frustrated by my sister-in-law when she began adding unnecessary stress by collaborating with a problematic aunt. We tried to include my brother-in-law even after she said not to because we felt it was the right thing to do, and she called us to tell us that if we continue to do this, it would affect his health. At one point, she wanted us to push the cremation memorial out 3 to 4 weeks for them to be able to help more, but then she changed her mind and said even if we pushed it, it would probably just fall on her. I took a week off work and canceled a conference to help put the pieces together to help my husband plan an honorable service. We understand that my sister-in-law and brother-in-law could not help, but we felt like our sister-in-law was creating additional chaos by frequently calling us to relay the problematic aunt's complaints during the entire funeral planning process. This continued despite numerous people warning my sister-in-law about engaging with her. Her reason was that she likes to keep her enemies close. We urged her to stop, and as a result, she blamed me for trying to control who she spoke to and said that we excluded her from the funeral planning process, even though we have numerous emails and messages from her telling us that they could not be involved. I am hurt by her false allegations. She literally has nothing to gain, and not to be disrespectful, but my father's husband did not have any assets or money. Just a lot of mess was left behind for us to figure out. We've paid for the funeral and any expenses that have come up while trying to close out his affairs. It has been 6 months since then, and I've initiated multiple heart-to-hearts to resolve our issues. I tried to foster a genuine friendship and practically begged to be involved in my 2-year-old nephew's life, but she's only ever reached out when she needed me to help with her business. Recently, she invited us to her Friendsgiving dinner, but we were out of the country for 2 weeks and asked to come over a few days later. She changed her mind and said that we now have to wait 2 to 3 weeks because she had too much going on to get sick by us, despite the fact that we weren't sick, even though she and her husband are anti-vaxxers and got others sick. I had been telling her about our vacation plans for months, but she says that she didn't know we were out of the country. She refused to let us see our nephew, even with a negative COVID test, and instead of addressing the issue, she made further false allegations about not including them in the funeral planning process. We felt like she was punishing us because we could not attend her Friendsgiving dinner. The most hurtful thing to us is she said that my brother-in-law felt the same way as she did. I told her to reach out to the family to confirm the truth and that I was no longer going to allow her to continue this narrative. Instead, she reached out to them to tell them I was treating her poorly. My husband was devastated and tried reaching out to his brother, but we got no response. I sent the proof to my brother-in-law to show him the truth about her telling us not to include them, and he did not respond to my messages. My husband saw him in person a week later, and my brother-in-law said he didn't want to get in trouble and shut down my husband's attempt to talk about it. My sister-in-law is suddenly reaching out to family members that have also asked to spend time with my nephew, including my mother-in-law and father-in-law, to allow them to see her son and more. They are so happy about the increased engagement, although they knew it was something to do with what was going on. I got a call from my mother-in-law yesterday that the family is going to put their head in the sand for self-preservation. No one that saw it happen will say to my brother-in-law or my sister-in-law that what she's claiming is not true, and that is just wrong. I fear that she's going to continue to punish me by withholding an opportunity for a relationship with my nephew. I am reconciling with the reality that I may never have a normal relationship with my nephew, all because I finally stood up for myself. I understand the family's choice to turn a blind eye because they don't want to be in my shoes, but I also feel completely isolated now. I'm starting to doubt myself for finally standing up for myself, and I honestly don't know what to do. I don't think you should be ashamed of yourself for standing up for yourself and your family. If anything, you should be proud that you actually said something, which says a lot more about the family who's just standing there idly and choosing not to get involved. And you know what? For the sake of self-preservation, I'm honestly surprised that you haven't gone no contact with this sister-in-law. Life is literally too short to deal with this kind of garbage. And if this lady seriously wants to punish you by refusing you the opportunity to ever get to know her kid, then by all means let her do that, because she's only injuring her kid and herself in the process. She is clearly showing her true colors in the middle of all the attention and drama that she is literally creating. So if I was in your shoes, I would just remove myself from the situation. There is honestly not much you can do here, and it's better that you don't play into her game. I found out that my wife cheated on me prior to our marriage, and now I don't know what to do. So my wife and I got married 8 months ago. We've been together for about 3 years and have had some issues, but we have been fairly successful in working through them. While we were engaged about 14 months ago, we hit a rough patch. Essentially, we had a fight and she left me. The reason that she gave was that I was selfish and that I didn't prioritize her. It had been a rough time for us as she had been overseas for an extended work assignment for the past 4 months. We spent 2 months broken up, during which time I tried to figure out what I had done in the relationship. Following some introspection, I concluded that maybe I had been selfish and didn't give her what she needed, and so I asked for her back so that we could try again. She initially declined, but then contacted me a few weeks later, wanting to talk. Eventually, we ended up getting back together. Long story short, we patched things up, and at her suggestion, decided to go ahead and complete getting married. In the process of getting back together, she mentioned that she spent some quality time with someone while we were broken up. I had as well, and I didn't really care, but I had asked if she had cheated on me during the relationship. She said no, and I said that I hadn't either. So we get married. A few months ago, it ends up accidentally coming out that she had started an emotional affair with a coworker the month prior to leaving me, and that she had left me for him. After a few months, she decided she wanted to be with me still, and she eventually came back. However, this didn't get mentioned at all. In recent conversations about this situation, I asked why she lied when I asked if she had cheated on me in the relationship. She said that she thought I meant just physically cheating, so she just didn't mention the other stuff. She has since apologized profusely for it and said that it would never happen again. Now, I believe strongly in the sanctity of marriage and for fighting for the marriage relationship, but I'm struggling here because I was lied to. Though as far as I know, she has been faithful since our wedding day. It just feels like the entire marriage is a sham because I never got the whole story. I feel so lost and I honestly don't know what to do. That is really unfortunate. You try to have some kind of honesty moving forward, especially when you're trying to get married, but it looks like she wasn't being completely honest, which honestly is completely unfair to you. So I don't blame you for being upset about this situation in the slightest. I think this really comes down to what you expect out of the relationship, because you said it best, you plan on fighting for the marriage. So in my opinion, that's exactly what you should do. It doesn't ignore the fact that you're still hurt by what happened, but at least it shows that you do plan on trying to make this work. So hopefully this does eventually work out for you, because it sounds like you love this person enough to try and fight for them, and hopefully they feel the same way towards you. My partner completely ignores my needs as I catch COVID and end up completely isolated and quarantined from everybody in her family, all while Christmas is going on right outside my door. And I feel so hurt and betrayed, as well as neglected, that I simply don't know what to do. So my partner's family lives on a beautiful and expensive island. She really wanted to be here for Christmas this year, so I saved all of my vacation time and saved up all year just to make the journey. When we got here, after 20 hours of being awake for travel, all I wanted to do was take a shower and go to sleep. But she ended up doing a few things that I felt were very inconsiderate that kept us up for another few hours. I kept thinking if I don't go to sleep, I'm gonna be sick. And so I finally voiced my concern to her, and she was immediately defensive. We got into a huge whisper screaming fight, and I started to cry. I didn't sleep that night, and my sinuses never went back to normal after crying. I just kept feeling worse and worse, and eventually, 3 days into our trip, I tested positive for COVID. Part of the reason I didn't sleep was because her parents were awake until 2:30 in the morning, making noise in the house, which is about the time that my internal clock wakes up for work due to the time change. Once I found out I had COVID, I immediately went into quarantine. I've been isolated in this room, and barely anybody texts me or checks up on me, and I've been relying on them to bring me food and water. I know they're busy having their Christmas together, so I've been trying not to bother them as much as possible, but there's also been very little communication, so I never know when meals are coming or if I should just order food myself. I spent my Christmas completely alone, and no one barely talked to me until dinner time. I did have a nice dinner outside with just my fiance, and her mom got me some gifts, and I watched some of them open gifts through the window. They have been very graciously feeding me delicious food and going out of their way to get me medicine, but it has really highlighted an issue in my relationship, which is that I'm often asking for what I need, and then I am given something completely different, and it's then implied that I'm ungrateful when I reiterate. For instance, I'll ask for some water, since I'm not able to go down into the house because I have COVID, and my partner will take my water bottle for an hour while I'm having coughing fits. Or at 9 in the morning, I'll ask for a coffee, and by 11, I still don't have a coffee, and now I have a splitting headache. The only other thing that I've asked for was if my partner could throw in my laundry, which she never did. I feel bad that they're doing so much work, so I've been really careful not to ask for much. I also feel really bad I've exposed them to COVID, and I'm worried that they might get sick next. I've been extremely careful since finding out, at least to the best of my ability. On the third night of not being able to sleep due to the noise in the house, I texted my partner and I said, "Your parents don't ever seem to go to sleep. I admit I shouldn't have said anything, but I was severely sleep deprived and in pain and very sick, and I was really just worried I was going to keep getting sicker." My partner then told her mother what I said. Then her parents finally leave the house, and I think now maybe she'll want to talk to me from a distance, since I've barely spoken to anyone for days. But she didn't even do that, so I texted her to ask, and she said she was eating and went off on how rude I've been and claimed that I was demanding that they need to be quiet in their own house. And you know what? I never did that. I just wanted one night of quiet so I could survive. I'm feeling so hurt and angry. I know it's a very bad circumstance, but it would be so much better if my partner was kind kinder to me. I even looked for a hotel room, but the cheapest one would be $2,000 for the rest of the nights. I'm honestly at a loss and I simply don't know what to do. I think first and foremost, you need to know that this is not a you problem, and this is instead a problem with your fiance as well as their family. I mean, if I had someone over who was a casual guest and they were severely sick, I would be checking in on them pretty much constantly just to make sure that they're doing okay. I mean, they don't even have the decency to bring you water or coffee for hours at a time. Meanwhile, you're coughing up a lung and you're absolutely miserable sitting in this room wondering if you're ever going to get any help without getting guilt tripped in the process. I mean, that is so unfair for you, it's not even funny. The lack of care or empathy or anything along those lines that your partner and her family are showing towards you is a very telling sign. This is absolutely ridiculous. And in my opinion, this is a massive, massive red flag. She can't even take care of you in your worst of times, let alone check up on you or even have a basic conversation with you. So hopefully you can get better soon. And when you can get off this island and get back home between the two of you, I think having a very serious conversation about what went down would really do you some good moving forward, because the way she's acting is incredibly selfish, and this is something that I definitely would not take lightly. An entitled Karen tries to steal my bag right out of my hands and tries to make a run for it, but I tackle her to the ground, getting 2 security guards involved in the process, and as a result, I pressed charges against her and she got to enjoy her Christmas behind bars, and I've never been more satisfied by anything in my life. Here's what happened. So today was weird. The internet is down at my house, so I'm down to mobile data. So out of boredom, I went to the mall to people watch and download some YouTube with premium. I'm bundled up, looking not like a bum for once, and I just go to the mall. I get there and grab a smoothie at Booster Juice and proceed to sit in the food court and sip my mango smoothie. I sling my man purse over the chair, take off my knitted scarf, and go about downloading videos to listen to when I'm at home. But little did I know that my Attack on Titan messenger bag was going to catch the eye of some kid and her entitled Karen of a mother. Here is how everything went down. This kid comes up from behind me and says, "Dude, I love your bag. Can I see it?" I turn around and I say, "Sure, why not? It's just a bag, nothing special." The kid then proceeds to look at it, telling me how much they love it. Suddenly, this entitled Karen comes up behind her kid with a look of pure disgust on her face. "Baby, what are you doing near this creep?" At first, I was stunned by what she said, but I looked up and I said, "Well, that was rude." She asked to see my bag and I said sure because she liked it. The kid then chimed in and said that they really did enjoy the characters on my bag, saying that one of them was really cool in this anime. The Karen then says, "I see. If she likes the bag so much, can she just have it? It's honestly so weird for a man to have a bag this big, and it's creepy that you like kid stuff like this." I responded by saying, "Well, once again, that was rude, and no, she can't have it. First off, I don't reward rudeness, and secondly, it's my bag, so no, she can't have it." At this point, I'm confused, because who in their right mind would go up to a complete stranger and just ask for some of their property simply because their kid walked up to them and expressed some kind of interest in it? This Karen then snaps back at me and says, "Who do you think you are calling rude?" working herself up into quite the frenzy. I look at her and I say, "I'm calling the woman casually insulting me for literally no reason, while also in the same breath demanding my property rude because, well, it's just rude." At this point, I'm annoyed, and I am absolutely not going to tolerate this stupidity. This Karen then says, "Well, it's true you are creepy for liking childish things." So I respond by saying, "And with that, I'm done here. I hope your day is as lovely as you are." I get up and I reach for my bag to leave. This entire time, the kid has been looking at us all mortified. At this point, the Karen does something absolutely unexpected that left me in absolute shock. This entitled Karen then rips my bag off the chair I just vacated and attempts to run away with it. Now, I'm by no means an athletic dude, but I bolted after her and tackled her to the ground because this lady just stole my bag that had my wallet and other personal stuff in it. I was furious, and I was trying to rip my bag out of her ugly mitts, screaming about her being a thief. Suddenly, I'm pulled off by a security guard, and she goes full victim mode. She says, "This creepy man tried to steal my daughter's bag. Arrest him right now." I respond by saying that this lady is a liar. I say that she stole my bag when I refused to hand it over to her, and at this point, I'm furious, and I'm thrashing about in the security guard's arms. He tells me to relax, saying that they can sort this out. He then asks me if there were any witnesses around that saw it happen. So I respond by saying, "My wallet is in there. Screw the witnesses. This stupid lady just made off with with my stuff. And at this point, I'm still furious, but no longer thrashing about. I'm starting to calm down. Another security guard comes up and says, "Ma'am, hand over the bag right now and sort this out." But the entitled Karen wasn't having it, as her face went completely white. She says, "No, arrest him right now. He tried to steal this and I stopped him. No need to search it if it's my daughter's." The security guard then said, "Ma'am, we can easily prove whose it is by checking the cameras or by checking the bag. Either way, we are confirming what happened. Now make your choice." The entitled Karen reluctantly hands over my bag, and the guard searches it and finds my beat-up black leather wallet and sees that my ID is in it. He then turns to me and says, "Would you like to call the police?" And I responded by saying, "Absolutely. I want the book thrown at this thief." Suddenly, this entitled Karen proceeds to bolt for the door before the guards can give chase, leaving her kid behind. The kid is on the phone with her dad, saying mom went ballistic again and she needs to be picked up. The guards took the kid back to the security office, and I go with them because I'm getting her info from the dad and I'm absolutely pressing charges. The dad arrives and isn't surprised by what she's done, and it turns out she's his ex-wife, and they are in a custody battle at the moment. He hands over her information gladly because I'm assuming this is going to be used against her in court. I filed charges with the police, and I just got informed that she was arrested at her home. So honestly, this entitled Karen can enjoy being locked up. I hope my beat-up bag was really worth the prison time. What an absolute psychopath. Who really thinks in their right mind they can get away with trying to steal someone else's property and seriously think they're gonna run away with it? I mean, that's just so unbelievably weird. I'm sure the ex-husband is probably really relieved that something like this happened because yes, this is absolutely going to be used against this lady when it comes to a custody battle involving their kid. I mean, she straight up just left that kid alone and ran away to try and save face. But thankfully, she got arrested. And honestly, that's exactly what should have gone down. So good for the original poster for doing the right thing and pressing charges in this case. Because this entitled Karen is an awful mother, and people like that really do need to learn the hard way that you can't do stuff like that and expect to not get punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. My boyfriend of 8 months has suddenly decided that he's gonna start ghosting me after sending me a cryptic message very late in the night. And now I'm left scratching my head, trying to figure out what is going on, as well as how I can possibly get in contact with him. Here's what happened. So we've been together for about 8 months now, and last time we talked was a week ago. Everything seemed fine, and he sent me a goodnight message on Messenger. I didn't reply as I had fallen asleep, which is nothing unusual, this happens from time to time. But 4 hours after he said goodnight, he had also written to me saying that if you're not honest, you lose the good ones. I asked him what he meant, and when he woke up, I could see that he had read my message. I wrote and I tried to call him throughout the day, and the day after was the last time he had been online or logged onto Messenger. I know I'm not ignored or blocked, as I've tested it out to see what it would look like. He hasn't deleted me as a friend on Facebook either. I've been calling his phone, and about half of the time the signal goes through, and the other times I get sent directly to voicemail, so it doesn't look like he has blocked my number. I have been out of town but got back yesterday, and I can see that he has been in my apartment. We had planned for him to pick up some of his stuff while I was away, so there really wasn't anything strange going on, and he had my keys. It seems he just picked up his box and left my keys, but nothing else was out of the ordinary. Today, I noticed that he had logged me out of his Netflix account that we had been sharing for a while. I had checked it regularly to see if he was watching anything, but it didn't look like he was watching anything the whole week. I realized it wouldn't give me any answer to see what he was watching, but I feel so desperate. This behavior is just so unreal. It's bothering me not knowing what in the world is going on. I've been trying to pick my brain of what it could be, and I've talked with my friends if they have been in contact with him, but none have given me any information. Even if someone had said anything like saying I cheated, even though I haven't, I just can't understand why he won't talk to me to clear things up. What can be so horrible to find out that would make a person go no contact like this all of the sudden almost overnight? I can't imagine the relationship is salvageable, but I can't stop obsessing over this unknown factor. What can I do? Is there any way I can get him to speak to me? He lives about an hour drive away. I don't have a car, and public transportation would take 3 hours. Do I go there and start banging on his door? What should I do? This is definitely really weird behavior, because this guy basically decided, okay, I'm gonna go no contact with her, pretty much out of nowhere, overnight night even. So I can completely understand where your confusion is coming from. You thought you were good and you thought you were having some kind of relationship, but it sounds like he has other plans. Because, I mean, look at the facts. He is straight up ghosting you. I mean, that's exactly what he's doing. He has logged you out of his Netflix account. He's come to your apartment while you're not there to get some of his things, and he left you your keys. I mean, it sounds like this guy's being an absolute jerk about this, but I'm pretty sure he just broke up with you. And if anything, it sounds like he thinks that you lied to him about something, and now, as a result, instead of discussing this with you, he's completely ghosted you and said, nope, I'm not gonna have anything to do with you, which is really unfair for you, to be completely honest. Like, it would be one thing if there really was some kind of drama going on between the two of you, and he said, you know what, I'm done. And sure, that's gonna hurt really badly, but at least you have some kind of closure. But in this case, it's like he just up and vanished. He left you this cryptic message, as you put it, and decided, okay, I'm now gonna move on with my life. And honestly, you probably would be better off just doing the same. Maybe send him one last text message and say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I really don't like the way you're ghosting me. And frankly, unless you have a discussion with me, I think this relationship is pretty much over. Because I think you're right, I don't think this is salvageable. His actions and the way he's treating you is completely immature, and it's like some high school level garbage. Mind you, this guy's 30 years old. So hopefully you can find some kind of answer to what's going on, because the way you're getting ghosted literally out of nowhere is completely inappropriate. Today, I messed up by repeatedly shooting my boss with paintballs in the head in the middle of a paintball match, all because he refused to call his hit. And now I'm worried that I might be losing my job. Here's what happened. So we went paintballing with my office colleagues as an end of the year celebration. In a game, I ran to the edge of the arena, hoping to flank one of the other teams. Two people on the other team had the same idea, and we found ourselves in a bit of a standoff behind some wooden cover. I shot the first person quickly, and they called their hit and went away. It was then just between me and one other guy. I will call him Dave, that's not his real name. Instead of wearing a full helmet, Dave only wore a mask, which left the rear and top side of his head uncovered. Unluckily for him, the top of his head was visible to me through a slit in his wooden cover. I considered for a moment what to do. Do I shoot him in the head with the paintball and cause immense pain and agony? Do I wait for a shot against a more protected part of his body? In the end, I thought I only need to shoot him once for him and I to be on our way. And by wearing a mask and not a helmet, he full well knew what could happen. So I steadied my aim and shot him through the gap in the wood, clean onto the top of his head. I heard him scream, "Ah, you jerk!" But still he didn't call his hit. He didn't even move from his position. I shouted to him, "Call your hit," but he didn't respond. And I'm sure that he heard me because I saw his head turn slightly when I spoke, but he didn't call his hit. So I shot him again and again and again in the exact same spot on the top of his head. With each shot, he let out a grunt, but he did not call his hit. It was kind of satisfying, actually, seeing the paintballs explode on the top of his head. At this point, his head is a yellow and red paintballing mess, but yet he still does not call his hit. Eventually, a marshal comes nearby, and I tell him that he does not call his hit, but as you can see, he is covered in paint. The marshal tells me to shoot him once more to see for himself. So right through the slit in the wood, I shoot him in the exact same spot on the top of his head. He doesn't call his hit, and the marshal pulls him out and escorts him away. I then see him after the game, crying his eyes out, holding a bag of frozen peas over his head, walking towards the car park. It turns out this was my line manager, my boss. I'm not sure whether to tell him it was me that shot him, or if I should just wait until after the Christmas holidays. And to anyone who might be worried that I did some serious damage to him, he is mostly fine, I think. He has a sore head and was quite embarrassed from crying in front of his staff. It was just your basic rent to the public paintball gun that doesn't really possess any real dangerous power behind it, though getting shot in the exact same spot over and over again probably increased the pain quite a bit. Overall, just to be clear, I checked my calendar for the coming work week, and I can see my boss has scheduled a meeting for everyone that attended the paintball meeting. So hopefully that meeting goes well, and hopefully at the end of the day, I still have a job. That is really funny because your boss was straight up cheating. It's a common rule in paintball. If you get shot, just call your hit. Call it and you won't have any other problems. Because if you don't call it, you're just asking to get shot more. That's the only thing that's gonna happen. And it's especially bad because you know what? The person that shot you probably has a clean line of sight right towards your body. And you can bet if you don't call your shot, you're only gonna get shot again. So this boss really has themselves to blame. I mean, they literally got shot in the head like what, 5 times? You would think after the second time you'd be like, okay, I've had enough, this hurts. But this guy really wanted to be stubborn and said, no, I'm not moving. Like, is the paintball game really that important, buddy? Because because you crying in the parking lot clearly says otherwise. So hopefully there's no kind of drama at work over this incident, because if anything, the boss has themselves to blame, and you honestly didn't do anything wrong. I accidentally deleted my voicemail that I got from my aunt wishing me a happy birthday, and this is so devastating because my aunt passed away a few years ago, and I just wanted to record this voicemail and try and keep it forever, but instead I deleted it, and now I am absolutely beside myself. Here's what happened. So this happened yesterday, and I'm still crying on and off about it. So my aunt, who was like a second mom to me, passed away 2 years ago. For the past 4 years, I've kept this voicemail that she left me wishing me a Merry Christmas, even though she knew I was coming over that day when she called and left it. Yesterday, I remembered I had a screen recording tool on my phone that I planned on using to record the maybe 10 voicemails I had from her. Well, I started it up, I called my voicemail, and I began recording. Keep in mind, this voicemail is the first, oldest, longest, and my favorite one from her. For some reason, when the voicemail stopped playing, without even letting my brain catch up in the thought process of if the recording worked or not, I hit the number 7, which ended up deleting it. My heart instantly dropped. What have I done? Of course, I went straight to the recording to see if I had recorded it in the first place, and if it's not obvious by now, I didn't actually record it. This is about when I started going crazy through my voicemail prompt options, my phone apps for a folder, and researching how to recover a deleted voicemail. The biggest issue is my voicemail app doesn't have a drop-down menu of any sort. For some reason, it only gives me the option to call my voicemail when I open it. After a lot of crying and waiting for them to open, I called my provider to see if there is anything that could be done. Bless the girl, I'm gonna call her Grace because I sadly can't remember her name, but she really tried to help me. She was going through everything she could think of and was trying to find a way to get that voicemail back. She even got Samsung tech support on the line with us. After a lot of talking and team viewing, there was nothing that could be done, and there was no answers as to why my voicemail is set up the way that it is. Grace said she could help me try and get my voicemail updated to show the proper prompts, but highly was against it because it couldn't guarantee that I would have my other saved voicemails still on there if we did that. So we both agreed on not doing that until I got a friend to help me record the rest of the voicemails that I have. Grace, which I know isn't your name, if you see this, I just want you to know you were so kind, and I could tell you really tried your best to help me, and I'm truly grateful for it. I appreciate everything you did for me, but it is a shame that I ended up losing something very precious to me. That is really a sad situation. Imagine having a voicemail from somebody that you love, and you accidentally delete it when you're trying to record it and keep it. But I honestly would not give up hope. There might be someone online or someone locally that can help you maybe hack your phone and figure out some way to not only record the rest of your voicemails properly, but maybe get into the phone itself and see if there's some way of saving that lost voicemail. Because obviously this is such an important thing to you, and it really would be terrible to lose it over such an honest mistake. So hopefully it all works out for you, because clearly this message means a lot to you. My entitled mother-in-law very well might be stalking me and my husband, and we are currently scratching our heads trying to figure out how she has so much information on me as well as my husband, despite the fact that we have not told her or anyone else our details of our lives. Here's what happened. Recently, my husband and I moved out of state. Since we do have a very bad history with my mother-in-law ever since we got married, we decided not to tell her directly because we didn't want to cause any negativity during our move. For the record, she has caused a lot of trouble for my husband and myself. We did tell my sister-in-laws, and obviously we knew that they would tell her. We did not share any time or date of the move. Since then, my mother-in-law knew but didn't say a single word to us about our move, which I found extremely concerning because she's not the type to stay silent. My husband and I finally just moved to our new apartment, and not a single word was said to any of his family members about our move-in date. We didn't even spend a full day in our apartment when my mother-in-law texted me saying things like, "Have you settled into your new place? You guys must feel very tired," and asking me if I liked our new place we were in. And this was just another chance for her to be fake nice right to my face, as always. She then sends my husband a whole paragraph about how she's gonna be lonely and how her being alone is gonna be a test from God, indirectly guilt-tripping my husband a lot. In essence, she completely made our move about herself. My husband decided not to respond, and so she double texted him asking him to respond so she would know that we're okay, which honestly was just a facade. He proceeds to let her know that if we don't respond, it means that we are busy busy because we are still in the process of moving in. What concerned me is how did she know? Where did she find out? We did not share with anyone that we are sick, but fast forward to today, and my mother-in-law randomly texted my husband saying, if you feel sick, dull, or down, make sure you take some vitamin D. Your body needs the vitamins. And it seemed like she knew he was sick. A while back, my mother-in-law used to have my husband's location, and he wasn't aware of it. So he stopped sharing it, and she went insane on him and said some pretty terrible things to him. Stuff like, I hope I can forget about you, as well as basically implying that he left her completely alone, just like his dad. So there's no doubt that she wouldn't go crazy that we moved states as well. For some additional information, she is currently out of the country while we were doing all of this. So there's no way she could have watched us move or anything like that. My husband also said he's not sharing any passwords and isn't logged into any devices that she might have access to. We also haven't told a single person when we are moving. The only thing my husband shares with her is a joint bank account, which only he has access to her bank, but she doesn't have any access at all. He made sure of it. We have not told anyone else when we are moving, and it's honestly so disturbing that she has all this information, with us basically scratching our heads, trying to figure out how she knew. So hopefully we can get this figured out and she can honestly just leave us alone, because this lady is simply weird, and I do not want her in my life. It definitely does sound like your mother-in-law might be stalking you. Like somehow she's figuring out all this private information about you and your husband, and it seems like she's just really feeding off this information and really is trying to make a mess of your life. So either she has some kind of tracking app on your husband's phone, or someone else in your life is feeding her information. So it might be in your best interest to maybe look into resetting the phone. I mean, she had information about where your husband was in regards to his GPS location. Who's to say she's not doing it again somehow? You can also pull a fast one on your extended family members to try and find out who the mole is. Maybe start up some fake rumor that you're pregnant or some other big news and see who exactly is spreading rumors as well as information about you. And you can do this with different information to different family members. I think I saw something like this on Game of Thrones once, and if it would work there, it might just work in this situation as well. So hopefully you can find some distance from your mother-in-law, because she really does sound weird, and I honestly would not want that in my life either if I was in your shoes. An entitled Karen gets her car towed after she fails to put a parking pass on her dashboard, and now as a result, she is threatening to have me arrested unless I retrieve her car in a timely fashion. Things got so bad with this entitled Karen that the police ended up getting involved. Here's what happened. So I was working the front desk with my general manager in the back, and generally things weren't irregular. People came in, they got checked in, etc. Life was fine until this entitled Karen walks in and storms right up to the front desk, scowling at me in the process. Oh boy, here we go. She looks at me and says, "Where is my car?" I ask her, your car? Just to clarify what she's talking about. And she says, "Yes, what happened to it?" I look at her and I say, "I don't know, ma'am. Is it damaged or something?" She then screeches that it is gone. And then after I clarify that it's no longer in our parking lot, she tries to imply that I took it somewhere. She says, "No, it's gone. Where did you take it?" I look at her and I say, "I didn't do anything. I certainly didn't take your car." So after this loud exchange, the general manager comes to the front, wondering what all the noise is all about. He asks what the problem was, and she just starts yelling at him as I let him handle the angry guest. He could already tell she was the unreasonable type of person who didn't care how things worked, so long as it was in her favor. As it turns out, her car was towed because she hadn't placed the parking ticket we provided our guest for free on her dashboard so they can park at our hotel. This little rule was added because people don't care that our parking lot is not a free parking car lot where they can leave their car for an indefinite amount of time. You have to be a guest or do a park and fly with us to issue a parking permit for use. We hand them out to every guest and inform them every time that they need to place them on their car dashboards immediately, or our security will call the towing company we contract to tow their vehicle away. And no, leaving it in your pants pocket doesn't count. They tow cars all week, but their customer center is only open weekdays, and I think it was a Saturday or a Sunday, so she was already in a bad way on that front. Her first version of events is that we never told her that. The general manager said that it's part of our standard check-in speech, and if she didn't listen, it's not on us. Then her next version of the events is that she left her window open and someone must have stolen her ticket. We called call the towing company, and one of the few attendants mentioned that when that vehicle was brought in, they noted that all the windows were closed and they didn't see a ticket anywhere within sight. We asked if it was possible for them to bring the vehicle back so that we could circumvent this whole issue and get her to stop throwing a fit at the front desk. They were closed and didn't have any drivers available to do that, as it was the weekend. She then turns to me specifically, ignoring my general manager entirely, and demands that I bring her car back or she will have me arrested for car theft. I give her the most "what are you talking about, you're crazy" look I can possibly give, and my general manager scoffs at her before telling her that we can't help her as the blame is solely on her. She storms off and I just shrug, and my general manager goes into the back thinking that she just gave up. But as you can probably guess, that assumption was absolutely wrong. She comes back in a little while later, flanked by 2 police officers, with a smug smirk firmly on her face as she pointed at me and said, "That's him. Make him give me my car back." They walk up to me and say, "Excuse me, we are here about a report on a car being stolen." I sigh audibly and I take a moment to pinch the bridge of my nose and give the lady a very deadpan glance before turning to the officers and saying, "I assume this entitled Karen called you?" And they respond by saying, "Yes, she did." I roll my eyes and I launch into an explanation of the events and why her car has been towed and not stolen. Fortunately, the officers are very calm on the matter, and when they asked for more details on the towing company that we have a contract with, they nodded in understanding. They did inquire if I called the company to return the car, and after saying we did but they were closed, they walked back to her. And once they went back to this lady, they even asked her, "Why are we even here, ma'am?" After they talked to her for a little bit, as well as with her growing more and more outraged, she finally threw her hands up in frustration, stomped off to her room, and left the next day. She ended up trashing the room before she left, but you know what? We had her card on file, so we got the last laugh. What an absolute nut job. Imagine you're just trying to do your job, and this lady tries to pin you down as the person that lost her car. I mean, what a complete moron. All she had to do was just put the ticket on the dashboard. I mean, is that seriously so out of the question that it's impossible to put that on your car? And I've been in customer service like this. I know that whoever was running that front desk on that day absolutely told her about the car possibly getting towed. Like, that's probably some spiel they've had to go over like 100 times that day alone. So hopefully, for the sake of everybody that works at this hotel, this entitled Karen never shows up again, because her behavior is absolutely atrocious. And in my opinion, she absolutely deserved to have her car towed. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. An entitled guest claims that they reserved a personal shuttle to the airport, but in reality, they just missed the shuttle that was for everybody that would show up at that time, and now he's giving me a hard time simply because he was late. And I'm honestly so done with some of the people at this hotel. Here's what happened. I work at a hotel near a major airport, so naturally we have an airport shuttle to take our guests back and forth. Our shuttle runs 24/7, but after the pandemic, we only have one shuttle, while before we had 2 shuttles to decrease wait time. Currently, it runs on a half-hour schedule, so it leaves the hotel on the top and bottom of the hour and picks up at the airport on the 15 and the 45. The only way to be fair to our guests and keep the schedule accurate is to leave the hotel right on the dot, and we only wait a few minutes if you call down ahead of time to let us know you were running late. Because the shuttle only fits so many people, we tell our guests to check in to sign up for a time slot so we can ensure that we don't end up with 20 people showing up for a shuttle that only fits 12. Though we are not required to do so, most of us at the desk explain to the guest that they need to be in the lobby 5 minutes before the time they signed up for, as the shuttle leaves right on time and does not wait. Apparently though, for this particular guest, the front office manager checked him in and didn't mention that part, which in my opinion was a mistake, but it's not something he requires us to do, and I'm the only one who puts the effort in to train my coworkers to do that, just so we can try and avoid any misunderstandings. I am not a supervisor. No one is required to take my advice and tell the guest this information, even though it sort of prevents this sort of thing happening. Today, a guest who signed up for a 7 a.m. shuttle came down at 7:03 a.m. I informed the guest that the shuttle had departed and he would need to wait for the next available shuttle. He said to reserve him another shuttle immediately, so I informed him that he would need to sign up for the next shuttle at 7:30. He reiterated that he wanted to reserve a shuttle right away and that he already reserved himself a shuttle for 7 a.m. I told him again that that he would need to sign up for the next available shuttle, which just got another insistence from him that he already reserved one. I realized that he was under the impression that he was oh so special and that he thought that the shuttle was leaving at 7 a.m. for him specifically, rather than leaving at 7 a.m. for our guests in general, because that's just when it always leaves. I tried to explain to him that no, he did not reserve a shuttle specifically for himself that was guaranteed to take him to where he needed to go, but rather he just put his name down to let us know how many people were expected for the already scheduled departure. Of course, he's super special and important, so he kept reiterating that he had reserved a shuttle and therefore we needed to get another shuttle for him immediately. I told him we only have one driver, so there's no way to get another shuttle going there right now, which was then met with, you guessed it, him saying that he reserved something, which I had to explain again that no sir, you did not reserve the shuttle. You said you'd be here at 7 a.m. for the shuttle, and then you were late and so it left. Eventually, his wife came down 5 minutes later, so even if he had bothered to let us know he was going to be late, we would not have been able to wait that long for the entire party to be ready. I will say the one good thing he had going for his behavior was that he never involved his status, but in the end he did ask for the manager's card, so I'm sure we'll probably be getting a bad review out of it. It's crazy how entitled people can really be. For some context, the hotel that the original poster works at is very high class, and it has people who stay there who are very rich, so I'm unfortunately not surprised that someone would act like that at the front desk. I mean, did this guy really think that this was some kind of taxi service? Like, he's not the only one who's going to be taking the shuttle to the airport. That's honestly just ridiculous. So good for this original poster for standing up for themselves. And hopefully the next time they deal with someone like this, they're able to at least show up on time. That way any of these problems can be avoided in the first place. My entitled mother embarrasses me in front of the entire family after I asked for medicine to try and help with my migraine. And now I'm just really embarrassed and I'm just so sick of all of them. So I get horrible migraines often and way worse than most people. So I take ibuprofen pretty much daily. My migraines are so bad so often that I throw up if I don't take anything for it. My mom keeps them with her and I have to ask her to take any. A minute ago, I was and still am having a really terrible migraine to the point of not even being able to open my eyes because I would be blinded by the ceiling lights above my head. I asked my mom to please just come over to me so that I could discreetly ask her for some ibuprofen without drawing unnecessary attention to the fact that I was sitting on the couch in pain. And I wanted her to come over to me because she wasn't currently doing anything except for talking to my dad. Her response was, "No, I'm working in the kitchen," which she wasn't at the moment. When she didn't immediately go to the kitchen, I asked if she could just come over here again, to which she had the same response and actually did go help out in the kitchen, walking right past me on the couch in the process. Annoyed, I said something like, "Mom, please," because her tantrum and self-important attitude was unnecessary, and she proceeded to go on a rant about how ungrateful I am and how I should be helping her in the kitchen, despite the fact that neither of my siblings had been asked to help out. I'm still in terrible pain at this point, and I'm not able to get off the couch, much less work in the kitchen with its loud noises and conversations. Not to mention, I'm currently having some terrible cramps, which ibuprofen would also help me with, and I did not want to announce that to the whole family at dinner. Like 2 minutes later, dinner is ready, and the 30 seconds it would have taken my mom to give me an ibuprofen wouldn't have mattered at all, especially since she wasn't even helping when I asked. And I then asked my mom one more time if she can please come over and talk to me. At that point, all of my family was there, and most don't know the situation I'm in, but my mom definitely was aware. I get migraines very often, and I was holding my head with my hands. I ended up getting chewed out by a family member I haven't seen in 2 to 3 years due to their military service, and everyone's angry at me because my mom shouldn't have to come over. I apparently should just be helping out regardless of the fact that I felt like I was going to pass out from the pain. It's overall ridiculous, and I'm honestly so sick of my family. Your mom really sounds incredibly toxic, doesn't she? The fact that she wouldn't come over and take care of her child, especially with the fact that they know they have migraines that are really painful, is really gross in my opinion. And then to make this big song and dance about it and just embarrass you in front of the entire family is also unbelievably toxic. Like, this literally would have taken 10 seconds to get taken care of, but instead you get chastised and dismissed by everybody. And that's not fair at all. And I know exactly what you're talking about with migraines. They are no joke. They can hurt really badly, and they can stifle you in so many different ways. So hopefully especially once you're away from your weird family members who felt the need to try and chime in on your behalf, that you're able to find a doctor to try and figure out what's going on with these migraines. Because if they're happening this often, there might be something else going on that you might need to look at. So hopefully you can figure this out, and you won't have to rely completely on your mother to try and get some kind of treatment, because the way she acted at dinner was completely inappropriate, as there's no reason for you to be treated that way. My boyfriend is requesting that I wait 2 years until he's ready to commit to this relationship, stating that he needs to work on himself and figure out his life before he can try and have a relationship with me, and I honestly don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been dating since April. He lives in Germany and I live in the United Kingdom. Both of us are in university and have 2 more years until we finish. He just started his master's this October, and since then he's completely changed. I've been waiting 3 months for him to prioritize me and give me time and effort, but he says he can't because he feels pressured and is really busy with his own life. He can't take the responsibility of giving me what I want. I told him that what I'm asking is the bare minimum. He was perfect before, so why can't he be the same now? We went no contact for 3 weeks, so both of us could think and decide whether to stay together or not. He just sent me a letter stating that he doesn't feel ready for a relationship and carrying the relationship of me having to move there after university. Overall, he feels like he has to figure out his own life to give me what I deserve, as he's not completely happy with himself. He also said he wasn't sure if he could be a loyal man for the rest of his life and doesn't know why he has these thoughts because he loves me. He later called and explained that I'm the only one he wants to be with, but the timing is not right, and he would like to keep contact for the next 2 years and see where things go so we would have a better chance in the future at succeeding in the relationship. He also said that he will work on himself during this time to be the best partner that he can be for me, but I don't know if I can trust his word anymore. Are these just excuses to keep me around until he doesn't want me anymore? He booked flights to see me so we could talk about everything one last time, but I'm not sure if I want to keep contact if we already are broken up. I don't want to wait until he's ready to commit, even though I somehow understand how he feels. I don't know what he expects from me. When you love someone, why would you want to wait 2 years to be with them? Does he seriously just want me to wait around until he's ready to move on? Or is he actually genuine and wants to work on ourselves before coming together? He asked me to think about everything, as he would be happy if we found a common ground for the future of this relationship. Should I just move on from him, or should I try to make things work out with him? What should I do? Your boyfriend, or should I say your ex-boyfriend, is absolutely insane if he really thinks you need to wait around for 2 years just to try and get back together with him. There's a few red flags here that I kind of want to detail, but the biggest one for me is him basically saying, I don't know if I can be a loyal man the rest of my life, which basically reads to me that he's not sure he can be faithful to you, which is basically the long way of saying I might cheat on you, which is honestly so bad. That is unbelievably toxic, and it proves that maybe he doesn't have the same view about this relationship that you did, and that's simply not fair for you. You know what else is not fair for you? Being forced to wait around 2 years just to then check in and see if this relationship is even worth pursuing. Like, talk about wasting your life away. If I was in your shoes, I would honestly be like, you know what? No thanks. I've only been dating you since April, and what you're asking for is absolutely ridiculous. I'm only asking for the bare minimum in this relationship, and you seriously don't have your priorities together. And with that, I would then kick him to the curb. Like, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship like that, having to stick around with this guy and wait for 2 years just to check in and see if maybe he still wants to get with you. Like, forget that. You have a lot better things to do with your life. So I would not take this request seriously, and if I were you, I would just move on with my life. It is incredibly unreasonable for him to ask you to stick around and just not have a relationship or any other obligations for 2 years just so he can figure things out. That, in my opinion, completely sounds like it's just not worth it. My partner constantly ignores me on nights out and acts as if he's single, ignoring me the entire night and pretending like I'm not even there, and it's honestly starting to ruin our relationship. My partner and I have been together for 5 years, and we have been through some stuff, but we are working through it together. However, something that is always happening is coming to a head, and I just can't take it anymore. I'm an extrovert too, and I love people, but I get quite bad social anxiety whenever we first go out in a social setting. He knows this, but he completely ignores me and spends most of his time speaking to other girls. He is a natural flirt, but isn't aware of it, and is just being friendly, but I hate it. It's gotten to the point that I don't want to socialize with him at events anymore. As an example, we went to one of his friends' weddings where I knew no one, and at the end of the night, I couldn't find him. He was sitting in a separate room on his own with one of the hotel staff catching up for an hour, who happened to be his friend's ex, who he thought was hot, while I stood at the bar on my own by myself. Another example was when we went out with friends for drinks, and he started chatting to a girl I know who is 21. Mind you, he is 37 years old, and in the process, he ignored me for hours. I kept looking over to get his attention, and he would just smirk at me and carry on his conversation. I tried to sit beside them to be included, but he kept his back to me. I eventually went over and immaturely shoved my drink onto the table and told this girl to have a good day. I realized I probably looked like I was overreacting, but he knew I was standing on my own and still did not care. More recently, we went to a social event, and I got nervous as usual and asked him if he could not ignore me and if we could just have a good night together. He then did exactly that. I eventually left and just went home. He did not come and check on me, and he did not call or text me or even notice that I had left. My friend told me later that he was sitting and speaking to a girl that I'm friends with, who is quite promiscuous and whom my partner apparently hates. My friend went up to him and called him out on it, and he swiftly moved away. This weirded me out even more, as he is always away on boys' nights, and I know he spends most of his time chatting to girls, as I've been told, even if nothing comes from it. My partner says he's allowed to speak to whomever he wants, which I believe he should as well, but it feels a little hypocritical, as he would be furious if I did the same thing in front of him on a nights out. It's happened before, so I make a point of always making sure he feels included and not leaving him out, or I choose not to speak to any attractive guys on my own for hours. I was meant to be attending another wedding with him this week for one of his friends, but I decided not to go because I knew I would be left in a corner feeling alone and awkward. It would end up in an argument of me saying he ignored me all night and him saying I'm making it up or just trying to be controlling. Am I being unreasonable to expect my partner, who I live with and have been living with for years, to think of me just a little bit more when we are out in social settings, or even just help me feel a bit more comfortable, which would include introducing me to people or just not disappearing altogether just so he can speak to random girls for hours? I've told him it makes me feel unloved, and it seems like he would rather prefer to be single. Every night out, he treats like a boys' night out on the town. I'm not expecting him to be glued to me. I love speaking to new people just like anybody else. I just expect us to check in on each other every few hours, or for him to remember that I'm even there at all. I guess I'm worried if that's how he acts when I'm there. What does he do or act like when I'm not there? What should I do? What you're describing is absolutely unacceptable. I seriously am blown away that you're putting up with this even for a second. He's clearly gaslighting you, and he's basically putting you in a corner just so he can try and act like he's single and hit on these other girls. And by the way, him being flirty like that is not him just being nice. He is literally flirting with these girls, and that's an important distinction to remember moving forward. He is hitting on girls right in front of you, and he does nothing to actually imply or show to them that yes, he is already accounted for and he's actually in a relationship. I mean, this is so disrespectful towards you, and there really is no good excuse for the way he's acting. So I think setting up some serious boundaries of some kind with him would really benefit both of you, because what starts as him just talking to girls and acting friendly and flirty with them eventually leads to other things that can be pretty tragic in your relationship. My entitled mother expects me to drop everything I'm doing, despite illness and a messy divorce, just to provide baked goods for her and her family, and she simply is not taking no for an answer. And at this point, I'm so exhausted and sick, I simply don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for some context, I'm going through a very messy divorce. It's been going on now for nearly 6 weeks. In fact, I only found out I was keeping my house 2 weeks ago, and I managed to get my cats out of foster care and bring them home. Everything I have is going into keeping this house running as smoothly as possible, as I am mentally disabled, so I have to rely on the benefit system. Whenever I can't buy physical gifts, I've always done baking hampers for my friends and family. I usually start at the beginning of December and get huge amounts of hampers made by then. Now, my friends and family know what is happening, and a majority of them said that they will wait till January to get their hampers this year, as I have been scrubbing and sorting everything out, as my ex-wife left me to do everything. Paperwork, finances, finances, house, our cats, you name it. I haven't stopped for 2 weeks until I finally collapsed out of exhaustion and got the flu for the past 4 to 5 days. It has been rough. I've informed everyone I can what's happening, and everyone just wants me to get back on my feet and get better. That is, everyone except for my entitled mother. Like I said, it usually takes me a month to prepare the hampers, and everything in these hampers are completely homemade. The Christmas cake, the gingerbread, the cheesecakes, the brownies, and the tarts, and this is just the minimum of every hamper. I usually make 10 to 15 hampers, so you can probably imagine how much work and time it takes to get these things done. It's only in this last week that I've sorted out the kitchen so I could even start preparing to get anything together, and then the flu has struck me down. I've been sleeping most days because I physically cannot stop falling asleep. My entitled mother is coming down Friday night and Saturday morning. I've had to say to her that I am too physically ill and I'm incredibly weak and I just can't do the usual orders in that time frame. I said that I would do what I can, but most of it will come after Christmas now. But according to her, that is just simply not good enough. She said that she demands the bare minimum, which would be 2 full-size cheesecakes, a vanilla bean one, and a caramel one that is homemade. And she also wants 2 full-size Christmas cakes. My mother is not a baker. She doesn't realize how much work just the Christmas cakes alone truly is. Never mind the cheesecakes that she's demanding. The only reason these are essential is because they are being gifted to family members who no one likes, but we have to impress anyways, because it's on my stepdad's side of the family. I'm just so frustrated and tired, and I truly just feel sick, and I feel like she's being entitled and absolutely unreasonable. This was the reason that I stopped doing big batches of baking for her. She always expected a variety of time-consuming desserts, ready for her specifically whenever she decided that she would pop down, and it was my ex who told her to stop last time. I get it's Christmas, but I'm going through a horrendous time right now, and I'm just trying my best. Everything right now is just super frustrating, and I honestly don't know what to do. The way your mom is acting is super ridiculous. She knows that you're sick, she knows that you're just trying to get by and get things done, and she also knows that you're going through a horrible divorce right now. So the fact that she can't see through that, and she can't put her own needs on the back burner and see that, hey, maybe she just can't get this done this year, is super toxic. Like, does she really expect you to get all this baking done all while you have the flu? Like, that's just completely irrational and so uncalled for. This is not a bakery, lady. Like, you just can't pop in whenever you want and say, okay, is the food ready? Like, what are you, crazy? It's not gonna be ready right away. So if I was in your shoes, I would tell her not to show up. Full stop. Explain to her that you are not a free bakery. These things are gifts. They're very generous gifts at that as well. Like, you really pump a lot of your time and effort into them, and it's not something she's entitled to just because she wants to have the perfect Christmas, which is obviously not going to happen for you. And if they really think about it, nobody should really be getting any kind of food from somebody who is very clearly sick. So hopefully that conversation goes well and you're able to feel better soon, because you are not some kind of short order cook who's just going to be bossed around into getting some kind of baked goods for your family, regardless of the circumstances or what may be going on in your family's lives, because that honestly is just ridiculous. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. An entitled lady and man show up at the restaurant and sit down at a table that is not theirs. And after causing a ruckus and causing problems for me specifically, the front of house hostess puts them in their place and tells them to get lost. And it was truly beautiful to see. Here's what happened. So during last Saturday's evening shift, I had these 2 stray drinkers, a man and a woman, probably in their early 40s, wander from the bar area into the restaurant part and seat themselves on a table in my section. When this happens, we usually just politely explain to people, hey, sorry guys, this part is for dining. If you're just in for drinks, the bar area is right over there. And most of the time, they are understanding. But also, sometimes if the bar is really busy and the tables aren't actually needed at the time, we just kind of let it slide. Anyways, so I tell our hostess that some drinkers sat themselves on my table, and I ask if I should kick them out. She says, nah, it's alright, they can be there for just a bit. The bar at the moment is packed. So I just ignored them and continue to serve my actual guests. Just as I'm I'm approaching the table opposite theirs to take an order, the woman loudly says, "Excuse me, the table's dirty," and points to a few crumbs in front of her. "Can you wipe it up?" The way she said it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because it was as if she was accusing me of not keeping my tables clean. But actually, if you just randomly walk in and sit yourself on a table that isn't ready yet or even for you in the first place, then you only have yourself to blame if it's dirty, right? But regardless, I turn to her and I say, "Sure, I'll just be 1 minute." I turned back to take the order from the other table. Then I went to get a rag and some spray and I wiped it down for them. So I go over and I wipe it down, but before I can leave, the woman goes, "There's still food here," and points to, I kid you not, literal air, like there was nothing there. But I wipe it down a second time anyways, just to appease her. And as a side note, it's literally Saturday night and all my other tables have guests on them, and these people aren't even supposed to be here, let alone be getting service from me in the first place. As I'm about to leave again, she literally shrieks, "It's still dirty," and again points to the flawlessly clean table. At this point, I'm dumbfounded, but I figure maybe, just maybe, she's confused by the pattern on the table. The tables are metal, and they kind of have the effect where it looks like it has some water stains all over it. So I kindly explain, "Oh, I think that's just sort of the molted pattern of the table." But then her husband chimes in, who had been inert up until this point, snatches the spray bottle out of my hand and furiously sprays it all over this one spot that she had been pointing out to. He then thrusts his palm out to me and asks for the rag. And at that point, I just kind of silently agreed and handed it to him as he goes in on this table, as if he is literally trying to erode it into a pile of dust. Then he shoves the spray and rag back into my hands and says, "That's how you clean a table." And obviously, the table looks completely the same, and I still completely dumbfounded, just stare at him and then walk off. It then honestly takes me a minute to stop being confused and to realize that I'm upset. I don't really feel like tolerating their existence in my vicinity anymore. So I relay what happened to the hostess, who says, "I'll sort it out," and heads right over to the table. The hostess looks at them and says, "Hey guys, really sorry, but we need this table for a booking right now." The woman says, "Do you need it literally right now?" And the hostess just responds by saying, "Yes." And then this entitled woman responds again, saying, "Do you need it like this second?" And the hostess once again says, "Yes." And the woman that was never supposed to be there in the first place then responded in a very angry tone, "Well, the bar is full. What do you expect us to do? Stand?" And the hostess, keeping the streak alive, looked at her dead in the eye and said, "Yes." So they angrily leave and then stand in the bar for a good half an hour with their drinks, watching over their ex table, probably waiting to see if we actually do use it. We don't use it at all, which is actually hilarious, and I'm fully expecting them to seek a manager to complain about us. But perhaps they had the humility to realize that they were just being complete jerks, and as a result of being a jerk, they were being evicted from the seats they never had in the first place. That hostess is an absolute boss. Yes, the original poster handled all of that with class and ease, but that hostess came in and not only did not take no for an answer, but she refused to take prisoners. They were gonna leave and they were gonna move no matter what. And it's also comical that they really thought you just were not cleaning the table good enough. People like that drive me nuts, because obviously anybody could clean a table, like it's not that hard, and it's not that hard to do it well. You just make sure it's scrubbed down cleanly, and I'm sure you did just that. But this weird man and this weird lady decided to try and take it up a notch and make up some scenario where the table needed to be cleaner. So hopefully these morons don't come back, because they're clearly disruptive and they have no business showing up at this restaurant if they can't have some basic manners. My boyfriend makes fun of me for the reality TV shows that I like to watch, and it's gotten so bad that he started to really make fun of me in front of my other friends. And I'm really embarrassed by this, and I don't know if I'm just being too sensitive or if he has seriously crossed a line, and I don't know what to do. So I really need some perspective. Over the course of 3 years, my boyfriend and I have been together. He's always talked garbage about reality TV shows and the royal family and about the people who care about them. He just thinks it's all pointless. I work full-time and I have a great job, and I am a full-time graduate student about to finish my degree. I rarely have much time to watch TV, but last week I finally sat down to watch some Netflix detailing the life of Harry and Meghan. I didn't know much about them or the royal family before this. I just felt like watching it. My boyfriend saw that I was watching it on Netflix and just kind of said, "Wow," but left it at that. On Saturday night, we were out drinking with a bunch of his friends, and something about the Netflix special came on TV at the bar we were at. Out of nowhere, he said, "Look, joke. Those are the people you care about. You care about them, right? Everyone looked at me since he interrupted a group conversation to do that, and I just laughed it off. But thinking back, it really felt rude, and maybe I could let it go. But now I'm remembering a few months ago, my sister asked me to watch a reality show with her. I only watched one season, but did get into it, and when I was watching it on my day off, my boyfriend said, "I can't believe you watched this. I used to think stuff like this was real when I was in high school. Then I realized how stupid and unintelligent it is." And at that point, I did tell him that it hurts my feelings, and he said he didn't mean to be rude. He knows I'm smart, but was just surprised that I was watching it. And as a side note, not that it matters, but I also wanted to be clear that we have watched plenty of shows together that he considers good, so it's not like I'm refusing to watch things that he likes. I even introduced him to Breaking Bad, which is his favorite show now. I guess my question is, am I being too sensitive by feeling bothered by these comments? I need to know, because I'm considering bringing it up to him again, but I'm not sure if I'm just being too sensitive. What should I do? So it definitely seems like this is not just lighthearted teasing. If it was, he would probably be doing this in private with you at home. He would probably make small jabs, or just kind of say stuff like, "Oh man, this is so stupid," or something along those lines. I think you get what I'm talking about. It's the fact that he has publicly humiliated you in front of all of your friends, mocking you openly that you enjoy these shows, even just for the entertainment aspect, is in my opinion a line that really should not be crossed. He is using his personal taste to bully you in front of your friends. That's honestly really inappropriate, and that is a serious line that he's crossed. And in my opinion, you really should bring this up and tell him, you know what, the way you're talking to me is really inappropriate, because this went from some personal distaste he has towards this specific type of entertainment towards some weird crusade where he's going to put down anybody who watches those shows. And that, in my opinion, is incredibly obnoxious and completely inappropriate inside of a relationship where both of you are supposed to be able to trust each other. It is a small thing, and I don't think it's a deal breaker if you guys really do love each other, but if he loves you and he's serious about your relationship, he really should listen to you when you tell him that you don't like being bullied for the shows that you watch, and that he really should be more considerate of the things that he says. He's making it seem like if you watch those shows, this is somehow a reflection of your personality as well as your intelligence, but you are literally a graduate student who's just trying to get by and enjoy some kind of entertainment in your downtime between your very busy schedule, which I'm assuming is very taxing. So seriously, your boyfriend needs to get a grip, because the way he's acting is incredibly inappropriate, and there is no good reason for him to publicly humiliate you in front of your friends. My partner gets upset anytime we have any kind of disagreement, and things get so bad that he will openly and vocally put me down in public anytime I might disagree with him. And it's overall really upsetting, and I don't feel heard or regarded in any way, shape, or form, and I don't know what to do. So me and my boyfriend have been in a relationship for around 9 months now. We are kind of long distance, as we are only able to see each other on weekends due to the nature of our jobs. I have been noticing something in the way that we communicate that's starting to bother me a lot. He always needs to have the upper hand on a conversation. If we are discussing something and we disagree, he immediately disengages from the conversation and ignores my point of view. When I try to explain my perspective and why it bothers me that he does this, he makes fun of it, or I'm told that I'm just making a bigger deal out of it than I need to, and that I need to stop being so serious, or he just makes a joke of me being bothered by it. We got into a discussion over messages during the week, and I tried to explain how I feel like my opinion isn't valued or heard, and he just completely ignored it, which also really bothered me. And we also had a recent situation where we were with some friends hanging out, and a topic came up. He made a comment, I disagreed with him, and I tried to explain why, and he looked at me with a very upset face and repeated his opinion again in a way to make me shut up, which just really felt humiliating, like I'm being scolded for speaking my mind. I just excused myself to the bathroom and left the room for some time. I'm just at a loss of what to do. He does not seem to understand why this bothers me or how to even respect my point of view. I don't want him to agree with me. I just want him to see my opinion as valid. It's normal and healthy to disagree on things, all whilst respecting the other person's thoughts. Otherwise, we have a really great relationship. He is a good person, we have common interests, and we are able to have normal conversations, except when we don't agree on something, which makes me question the future, because today we disagree on trivial things, but what about if we decide to have a life together? What should I do? I'm not gonna lie, your boyfriend sounds incredibly toxic, and he sounds super unpleasant to be around. Sure, he probably has some very redeeming qualities, But the fact that he acts like an arrogant toddler anytime you have some kind of opposing opinion is, in my opinion, incredibly gross. And it's a big red flag in my opinion. I mean, just look at how he treated you in public. He repeated his opinion again as if to try and put you in your place. Anytime a partner does that or embarrasses you in public on purpose or scolds you or puts you down in some way, that, in my opinion, is a very telling sign that this is not normal and it's not healthy. And you said it best. It's absolutely normal and healthy to disagree on things, but the way he's responding to that disagreement towards you is very aggressive, very hostile, as well as borderline abusive. I mean, imagine how this guy's gonna be acting when he's a husband. Like, to me, if I was in your shoes, this honestly just sounds like a nightmare waiting to happen. And I'm honestly predicting a lot of conflicts in the future. His conflict management skill is literally just to shout you down and make sure you don't have any time to discuss any issues with him. So maybe he's just super prideful or something like that, but it's honestly not your fault and it's something he needs to figure out. So hopefully if you want to stay with this guy, you're able to find some kind of solution, because based on what you have described, this guy sounds absolutely miserable and you honestly deserve a much better partner moving forward in your life. My best friend's girlfriend is absolutely obnoxious and she is constantly starting these weird arguments over the smallest of things, both with me and random strangers that may be around her. And it's gotten to a point where I just can't even stand being around her, and it's starting to affect my friendship with my best friend. And at this point, I simply don't know what to do. So I've known my best friend for about 4 years. We met up at my old workplace, and since then, we have this ritual where we meet up at the same bar at least twice a month, just to have a few beers and talk about our lives. She's been with her girlfriend longer than I've known her, and ever since I met her for the first time, I knew she and I would not get along as well. She has a very intense personality and is the kind of person that needs to be in the right about every topic. She loves arguing. My best friend complains about this a lot, and she argues with both people she knows and complete strangers. It's not a rare thing for her to pick up fights wherever she goes. She's also a huge flirt, and for a while, she was making some very inappropriate comments about their open relationship. Thankfully, she stopped doing that after a few months. There are plenty more reasons why I don't like her, mostly connected to their relationship, as I've seen my best friend cry many times and get anxious and depressed because of her. However, it's not my place to say anything. I tried giving her advice during our first year of friendship, and she quickly shut that down. She doesn't want relationship advice from anyone. I've tolerated the girlfriend this long because I haven't had to see her much. The hangouts are usually just the two of us, and the girlfriend has only tagged along a handful of times. However, things have changed recently. Apparently, the girlfriend recently had a falling out with her group of friends and is now friendsless, as my friend put it. Due to this, my friend has decided to bring her girlfriend to most of our recent meetups. And the thing is, I love hanging out with my best friend because I can relax. I can complain about work, I can talk about anything, and I know that I won't be judged. But I don't feel as comfortable with her girlfriend being present. Like I said, she loves arguing, and she always wants to get into discussions that I have no interest in. She always critiques my lifestyle and complains that I'm vegan, even though I never mention it and I keep it to myself. It also makes me uncomfortable that every time we hang out, she picks fights with random people. I have dodged the last 2 meetups because of this, and once again, we plan to see each other today instead. Fortunately, my boyfriend is included, but he's in the same boat as me. I talked to him about this, and he says he understands, as he doesn't like her either, but that I just have to accept that that girlfriend is a part of the whole package, and that I have to hang out with her from time to time if I want to maintain and nurture this friendship. I'm usually all for communication to solve problems, but telling your best friend you don't like their long-term partner would definitely break the friendship apart, so I honestly don't know what to do. This really sucks. You have a best friend that you really enjoy being around, but their partner is absolutely obnoxious, and I really hate that personality type where they love to argue so much that they will start random arguments with strangers even, just to try and satisfy this urge they have to be right all the time. It is such a toxic personality trait that this lady really needs to root out, otherwise another group of friends is going to turn on her. And I'm honestly not surprised that she had some kind of falling out with her other group of friends. I bet you it's because of the way she acts. So unfortunately, you kind of have to be the adult in this situation and talk to your best friend. Tell her straight up, hey, I don't like your girlfriend being around. She's really aggressive and she really does ruin the mood. And it's not fair for me when I'm just trying to hang out and be friends with you. Unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable around her because she always starts arguments and she's constantly trying to go in on every little thing that I say. say, and just leave it at that. Her reaction really will determine whether or not you can continue to be friends, because legitimately there is no way you can keep dodging and still maintain this friendship. And I think you owe it to yourself to at least be honest and clear the air of what exactly is going wrong with this friendship. Like, you really can't avoid this forever. At least that's what I would do if I was in your situation. But either way, hopefully this all works out for you, because the way this lady's girlfriend is acting is super obnoxious, and I can completely understand that you wouldn't want anything to do with her. Our entitled neighbors refuse to move their car out of our driveway, claiming that they have every right to park wherever they want, and that they shouldn't have to move it just because it's our driveway. And when my wife threatens to tow their car, our entitled neighbor then tries to hit my wife, only to then get arrested by the police. Here's what happened. So for some backstory, this is a story from years ago when I provided on-site tech work in a niche market all over America. The work is good and pays well, but the traveling can be rough, as I put in well over 100,000 miles a year by car. As I travel mostly by car, during the summer, we pay reliable types to feed the cats and water the lawns, and take the whole family on the road. My kids get to see much of America and parts of Canada and Mexico, and we get to have fantastic vacations, while I get to travel and still have the company of my family after work. The trips normally last 3 to 4 months, and these are honestly just great times. Unfortunately, during the winter, the kids have school, and I get to be away on my own anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months on a stretch. Some summers this happens too, due to family having other needs back in town, but then they sometimes travel with me for Christmas break too. At least my wife never has to hold down a job while I am working this job. This particular experience happens during one of those times that I am out of town and my beautiful wife is managing things back home. So when we first moved into this house, there is a great family that lives across the street from us. They are very respectful and just really great neighbors. They're upper middle class Latinos. They own a bar and they have fixed up their house in some very nice ways, including building an iron fence around their yard. They have several nice cars, more than they can fit in their driveway. There are always 2 cars parked on the street in front of their house. But they also have a problem. For whatever reason, someone in the local community just cannot accept that a Latino business owner of a bar can make this kind of money without also dealing illegal substances. Every month, the police swoop in with warrants and drug-sniffing dogs and spend hours going through their house and cars with fine-tooth combs. Every month, they leave empty-handed with no arrests, with no tickets and no infractions. Absolutely nothing. And every month, the neighbor comes over to apologize for any disturbance this inspection causes us. They are mortified every time it happens. Every month, we tell them not to worry about it. We always reassure them that this says more about the police than it does about them. Believe me, if they had been doing anything at all, they would already have been caught. They appreciate our support, and as my wife and children are also Latino, we are glad to give it. Finally, they've had enough of it. They sell the bar and the house and move to a smaller town in another state with a larger Latino population and open a new bar there, and I honestly wish them well. This then follows a string of much lower class Latinos in their old house, and none of them live there for very long, and I suspect that there may be a landlord behind some of this. Some of them are genuinely nice people. We even give 2 broken down vehicles to one fellow who is renting a room in the basement. I decided I was never going to swap the parts that I wanted to do in the first place, and as a result, this man was able to rebuild a single working vehicle and now can travel out of town for work. So that guy especially is just a good person. But everything changed when Macho Rooster moved in, and he lives there for a long time. He is the owner of this house, and this makes him somebody, and somebodies are an entitled thing to be. He struts about in nice clothes and bling. This is his domain. He has declared himself emperor of the street that we live on, and anyone who challenges that claim will eventually rue the day. Almost immediately, we start having trouble with him and his family for parking in our driveway or in front of our mailbox. If the mailbox is blocked, the post won't be delivered. My beautiful wife will take the kids to school or just pick them up and come home to find that she has to park on the street. This rubs her all kinds of wrong, but leaving nasty grams on the windshield is not improving things at all. If they get a shot at our driveway, they simply take it. Weekends are even more fun. Not only is this entire street filled with cars related to this house, but the party and the music is playing so loud, all of our windows shake, including the ones in the back of the house. If that is not bad enough, it keeps up until 3, 4, or even 5 in the morning. He has bullied many of the neighbors with his macho posturing. They won't call the police with a noise complaint out of fear. We call, and they just turn it up even louder after the police leave. Yeah, he's a real class act, this one. So this day, my beautiful wife returns from picking up the kids from school, and their car is in our driveway once again. What's different this time is the young lady sitting in the car, waiting for something or someone. My beautiful wife parks in the street, gets the kids in the house, and then comes out to have a chat with the young lady. It goes something like this. My wife walks up and says, "Excuse me, I need you to move your car off my property. You have no permission to park here." The young lady immediately gets an attitude and says, "Excuse me, my uncle said I could park here, so you can leave." My wife then said, "Your uncle doesn't own this driveway. He can't give you permission to park in my driveway. That's not how it works." But this young lady didn't seem to get it, as she just said that she has every right to park here. At this point, she then gets out, locks the car, and walks across the street. My wife then said, "I can have you towed, you know." The young lady then turns around and says, "You wouldn't dare." And this just goes to show how little this lady knows my beautiful wife. Not only does she dare, she has almost done it several times already and wanted to give them a chance to be warned. Well, now they've been warned. But before she calls a tow truck, my beautiful wife has a feeling this may escalate. So she calls the non-emergency police line and lets them know the issue she is having with our neighbors. When they get the address, they actually say, "Oh, it's them." She is looking for a number for a tow company when there comes a knock at the door, and it's the main man himself. It's Macho Rooster, and right now he is huffing and puffing. My beautiful wife is absolutely fearless. She opens the door and confronts him full on. Macho looks at her and says, "How dare you tell my niece she can't park here? I told her she could." My wife then says, "What makes you think that matters? You can't give permission to anyone to park on my property." Macho Rooster then puffs out his chest a little bit more. "Look, little lady, you obviously don't know who you are talking to. Whatever I say goes, and if I say it, it happens." Now, after he said this, my wife actually started laughing at him. He is actually much shorter than her. She says, "Look, little man, that macho garbage doesn't fly here. Maybe where you're from, you're a big deal and that stuff works. But where I come from, the men I talk to are afraid of women, not the other way around. We know what rolling pins are good for, and we are not afraid to use them. I've got a nice marble one in here. Would you like to see it?" This obviously did not suit Macho at all. He starts sputtering near incomprehensible bits of phrases that include some snippets like, "How dare you?" as well as, "Nobody's gonna talk to me like this," and so on and so on. Now, at this point, my beautiful wife takes a stance that is a quick reaction away from demonstrating a beautiful soccer kick to Macho's low-hanging fruit, if you know what I mean, since she can see that he's about to use something other than his words to get his point across, and she is clearly ready to defend herself. But she can see something that he in his sputtering rage cannot, and that is the police car that had just pulled up behind his niece's car. So as Macho's fist raises over his head to somehow make some kind of strike against him, she decides it's worth playing the poor victim and taking the hit. Instead of striking the first blow, she cowers just a little and cries, and tries not to laugh while doing it. To her amusement, the blow never lands. Officer Friendly breaks the speed of light when he sees the fist go up. He's out of the car, over the hood, over the chain link fence, and has Macho's fist in his grip before it can take a swing at her. Very shortly thereafter, Macho is shown a new kind of bling, a set of nice silver bracelets, as well as a new ride in the back of a cruiser. Other police officers have now arrived, and my beautiful wife is the perfect little victim. She is so afraid of him, and what could he do to her and her kids? Her being there all alone at home while her husband's traveling for work? She believes her performance was honestly Oscar-worthy. I find that personally very doubtful, but it's good enough for the intended audience. The niece is forced to move her car off of our property. Macho is not seen in the neighborhood for nearly a week. There are some apparently complicated issues that make this much worse for him, but the police are not free to disclose, and we honestly just don't care. For the rest of the time that he lives across the street from us, Macho never acknowledges our existence ever again. He also never allows any of his people to park in our driveway, as well as in our mailbox or anywhere near the front of our property. We only have to deal with all-night music on Friday night, but the first visit from the police results in the music going off permanently. Yeah, we call the complaint in. Under his ownership, the house is not properly maintained. It eventually falls into disrepair, so Macho sells it. I suspect to buy another one just to run down. It's the opposite of flipping homes. But overall, I'm proud of my wife, and I hope we never have to deal with these people ever again. What a crazy story. Like, this guy really thought he could fight this woman just to try and get his point across. It's also simply not fair considering the fact that he was absolutely in the wrong, and his niece should have moved her car right away. Like, who is he to say who can and cannot park in her driveway? He can't just make that call out of nowhere. That's just crazy. And how entitled do you have to be to try and intimidate your neighbors into basically doing whatever you want? Like, that's absolutely obnoxious. So hopefully the time in jail taught this guy a lesson that you can't try and strike other people or try and intimidate them just to get what you want, because that literally will never result in anything other than you just getting arrested. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Today I messed up by spending the night with an old friend and realizing that I love him a lot more than just as a friend. And right now I don't know what to do. So I met a guy by the name of Rob in our final year of college. We quickly became friends and spent some time together in classes and around campus. Nothing ever happened, but I always thought he was attractive and funny, and our personalities gel like crazy. Anyway, college ended, and we both went to universities across the country from one another. We had relationships, breakups, new jobs, and independent adventures. We spoke a couple of times a month over text messaging, and he eventually moved out of the country for work. Lockdown eventually happened, and while he was away, our texting increased, and we would eventually start speaking a couple times a week. And I always message him when I'm drinking or doing something that I know he would love. He always messages me back when he finds something I'd find funny as well, such as sending me a meme or something along those lines. He came back home to visit a couple times in the past year, and each time we met up and had a few drinks. The vibe was always immaculate and full of laughter, and being physically near him felt like I was at home. I've never told him that he was attractive, and vice versa, but if I'm picking up cues like I think I am, there is a mutual liking for each other. On Christmas Eve, we decided to hang out and do a pub crawl. I picked him up as his parents live about an hour away, and because he's just visiting, so he doesn't have a car he can drive. Immediately, things go right back to where they always are with us. Kinda flirty, no awkwardness, and just having a good time. Well, the drinks are flowing, and at one point, he goes to the bathroom, and another friend of mine, who was also there, said, "He seems really lovely. Is this a date of some kind?" And when they said that, I was immediately defensive. I started saying how we're just old friends, that nothing would ever happen between us. However, as the night went on, we were getting closer, and a part of my brain just said, yes, you do want to date this man. The night was winding down, but we are both a bit buzzed, and so I asked him how he's going to get home. He said he would just walk or take the bus, which doesn't make any sense because it's a 20-mile walk and it's 3 in the morning, so there are no buses. He could have gotten an Uber, but the surcharge alone would be ridiculous. So I said he could just stay at my place. We got a ride home and stayed up a little longer drinking and talking, and during this he's holding my hand and we have moments of just silence and eye contact. I set up the sofa so he could crash there, and we spent the night together. And it's not what you think. Nothing happened, if you know what I mean. But we did snuggle and there was some spooning and forehead kisses. But honestly, the way he was holding me felt so good and natural, like something I didn't realize I always wanted. During the night, I told him I'm so glad I met him, and I said to him, even though we don't say this, just know that I love you. He replied back that he loves me so much. He then gave me a big squeeze and pulled me closer to him, and we just went back to sleep. In the morning, my family came into the room, and I made the introductions. My family knew him from college, and I do talk about him sometimes, so it wasn't actually too awkward. Anyway, we were still so tired, and finally having access to an empty bedroom, we ended up napping just a little bit longer. I felt like there were times that he wanted to kiss me, and there were times that I just wanted to do the same. By this point, my family are being quite loud downstairs, and I realized that this can't go on forever. It's Christmas morning, and I need to open presents, and he needs to go back to his family. I convince him to get up, and we have a short but lovely conversation with my family, and I drive him home. We were both a little giddy with a hangover and excitement, but we chatted and laughed the whole journey. We had a little hug as he got out of the car, but immediately I started feeling like this is it. I'm not going to see him again for who knows how long, as he's going abroad in a few days. The reason I think I messed up is that I am in love with this man, and I just can't tell him. I know myself, and I would not be able to handle a long-distance relationship, and I also would hate so much to lose my friendship with him by telling him that I really, really love him, and then for him to just turn around and say that he doesn't feel that kind of love for me. I cried on my way home over thoughts of loss, and how if I just realized how I felt sooner, our lives could have been so different. I'm saying this all not knowing how he feels, but in my heart, I know he's a person I want around forever. What should I do? I mean, honestly, it's never too late to just move forward and say, hey, I like you, because it sounds like you two really really do like each other a lot. I mean, you literally spent the night cuddling and spooning and holding each other all night. Like, I don't personally know too many friends that would do that unless there was something very intimate or close between the two of you. So I really don't see a problem with you approaching him again and saying, hey, let's make this more than just friends. And the worst thing that could happen is he says no. I really don't think he's going to push you away for you saying, hey, I like you. By itself, outside of how you feel currently, it sounds like you have a really strong friendship with this guy. So you never know. This really could be a good thing waiting for you. And you don't know if long distance dating would work out. Like, it definitely could be something that could work in your life. So personally, I say go for it because I'm pretty sure this guy's into you. And it would be better to just go for it and accept whatever result comes your way than to wait on the sidelines and regret not doing something in the first place. My coworker and I were falsely accused of making fun of a customer and his partner. And as a result, we got $0 for a tip after this couple was served over $100 worth of drinks. And I honestly have never been more confused in my life. So I'm a bartender at a small classy bar that seats about 45 people. We make craft cocktails, and out of 50 drinks on our menu, only 2 are pre-batched because they have to be barrel aged. The rest, plus off-menu drinks, are made per order. People in the city know us for our cocktail program, and we get a good amount of regulars and recommendations because of it. We also do buyouts for private events, so needless to say, we are pretty busy. One time, we had a buyout for an after-wedding drinks occasion between 4 to 7 p.m. After the private event, we opened the doors to the public. People started coming in slowly, which was fine because my coworker and I needed a little bit of a break after that party. Our first customer were a couple in their 30s who apparently had been to the bar before but haven't been back in a long time. His face as well as the partner's face looked familiar, but I couldn't really remember them from before. They said they came for their partner's birthday. They ordered their first round from me, the second round from another bartender, and sort of bounced back and forth between the two of us each round. My coworker and I thought it was an easygoing interaction. He even made small chit-chat with us while ordering. It was slow, so my coworker and I had plenty of time to clown around. He and I are good friends outside of work, and we like to laugh and joke around with each other. At some point, he and I started laughing. It's a small bar too, by the way, so it's pretty easy to see if somebody's laughing or if they're having a conversation over in the corner. We were talking about espresso martinis and how much we detest making them, and we were just laughing about it in general. Please also note that no one at the bar had ordered one, so we were not talking about anyone in particular. This was just a general statement, if you will. We also had a projector on one of the walls that plays black and white films in the background, and it's often a focal point for most folks. It's also sort of a habit to look at the movie when nothing is going on, so he and I were looking at it while we were standing next to each other and just talking. The couple from before also just happened to be sitting at the table nearby. Now, this couple's partner never came up to order. He himself ordered for the both of them each time. After about 3 drinks each, he finally closed his tab and took to his table. Typically, people just sign there and then leave. We would not have thought much of it, but when we took his tab, he said he heard us laughing about him and his partner. Since my coworker and I were still in a silly mood, and since we thought our interactions with him had been pretty easygoing, we just thought he was joking with us, so we laughed it off and made a couple of jokes about the espresso martinis. He took the check to his table, signed, and then left with the partner. We then looked at the check and he wrote $0 on the tip line, even though there was $100 on the tab. My coworker and I were so confused. We genuinely thought he was joking with us. The next day, our manager talked to us and said that someone left a note on the Square app, which none of us knew people could do. He wrote that the bartenders were making fun of him and his partner the entire time. I had conflicting feelings after this. I was both annoyed and genuinely felt bad that 2 people thought we were laughing at them on a special day. I didn't care about the money. To me, it's more about our morals and intentions being completely misinterpreted as malicious. Even though this happened about 6 months ago, I still haven't seen them since it all went down. And honestly, I just feel kind of bad about the whole scenario. I really would not feel bad about this at all. I mean, you know the truth of the situation. You know for a fact you are not making fun of these people at all in the slightest. You are probably just enjoying your time of spending time with your coworker and just trying to joke around and laugh a little bit, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, especially in customer service. Like sometimes you really just gotta laugh and have a good time just to make the day go a little bit faster, especially if there's bad customers you gotta deal with throughout the rest of the night. So the problem is definitely not with you. It's with this guy and his partner who clearly are just super sensitive or something along those lines, and they made some weird assumption without ever trying to clarify what was going on. I mean, it sounds like they literally just saw some people laughing and they made the conclusion, yes, they have to be laughing at us, which is honestly really really weird in my opinion, and simply just doesn't make any sense. So if I was in your shoes, I just would not worry about this. I personally would not want a customer like this going into my restaurant, especially if they're not going to leave you any kind of tip after you serve them well over $100 worth of drinks. Like seriously, they're the person with the problem, and they should probably figure out what's going on with them before they go to another bar and ruin another bartender's night. An entitled Karen constantly trespasses on our property, destroying the flowers in our garden and refusing to leave, claiming that a property owner down the hill gave her permission to stand wherever she wants on our property. But even after the cops are called and given her a warning, she still refuses to leave, eventually leading to this entitled Karen serving some time in prison. Here's what happened. So at the time of these events, we live in a nice house on a cul-de-sac, all up on a hill with a great view of the valley and the lake. Our property is long and narrow. It is about twice as long as any other lot on the street, but instead of a big backyard, it has a really long side yard that extends from the driveway to the corner of the cul-de-sac with a main road. It is mostly grass, but there is a cluster of scrub oak in a flower garden that takes up at least 12 to 15 feet of it. After the scrub oak is a chain link fence, and beyond that is the side of the next house down the hill on the main road. You can see their driveway and backyard from the middle of the scrub oak cluster. This is all very important, by the way, and the reason it is important is because these neighbors have chickens and a rooster. When we moved in, there were a lot of failed flowering plants on the property. The only non-weed growing in abundance in this side yard garden were iris. I swear, you can grow an iris anywhere, but they are not the longest lived flowers in the world. My beautiful wife had great plans for this space, but she knew she needed to start with some small plants, and as they grow, the rest of the plants could develop. She started with some annuals that could start to reclaim the land from the weeds, as well as some ground covers that, as they progressed, would help choke out any of the unwanted grasses. She knew it would take some time, but she'd done it all before. It would eventually involve a bunch of other plants, but she was up to the task. But imagine her surprise when she goes to plant another round just to find a fair number of the smaller plants that she had planted had been trampled and or crushed. It was thoroughly disheartening, so she buys some more and plants them, only to find them crushed and trampled as well a few days later. And this process repeats again and again. And at this point, she is starting to feel like she is just wasting money planting anything in that area. Eventually though, we discover exactly what is happening. We catch the daughter of the people 2 houses down the circle from us, with her toddler in a stroller, pushing him right up to the chain link fence without any concern about what damage she and the stroller could do. My wife then says, "What do you think you're doing in my garden?" This entitled mother then says, "My son wants to see the chickens. They gave us permission to see them anytime we want." My wife then looks at her and says, "Okay, well then go see them," basically implying, hey, you shouldn't be in our garden. But this entitled Karen just doubles down and says, "Well, we are." My wife then explains to her that she does not have permission to do this on our property, but she claims that the people down the road gave her permission. So my wife says that they can go to their house if they really want to see these chickens. But this entitled mother was not having it. She then says, "That is too far, and then I have to push him back up the hill from there. He can see them just fine from here." But my wife once again responded by saying that you don't have permission to be here, all while this entitled Karen viciously claimed that they gave her permission to be here. My wife then said, "No, they didn't. They can't give permission for my property. Don't you see what you're doing to my plants?" The entitled mother then looks down and says, "You mean these weeds?" My wife then says, "Look closer. You have destroyed 5 new little plants that I paid good money for, and I didn't pay for them just for you to run over them with your stroller. And that's just today. I've had to replant them 5 times now." This stupid Karen still just said that she only saw weeds on the ground, but my wife wasn't having it. She said, "It doesn't matter what you see. You are not welcome here. You are trespassing on my property. If you really want to go see these chickens, then go to their house and see the chickens, but stay out of my garden. If I see you here again, I will have to call the police." And with that, my wife sent her on her way, while she complained the entire way back to the street. But of course, as you could probably guess it, this wasn't the end of it. Eventually, we of course keep finding our plants destroyed. We start to see ruts form in the lawn from the frequent crossing on the stroller over it. We catch them sometimes and repel them away, but they still keep going to see the chickens. From what we can tell, it is at least daily, and possibly several times a day. We both work, and there are a few windows that see out of the house in that direction. If we see her going down the street in front of our house from the kitchen, we can block her from going back there, but she keeps coming back. She always claims to have permission, and we always inform her that she does not have permission. She never pays for the damage, and she also never acknowledges that it ever happens. We talk to the police about it, and they give her a stern warning, but it does nothing to deter her, and clearly does not scare her in the slightest. We can't tell if she's under the influence of some kind of substance or has some other glitch that blocks her from getting the message. She is relentless. I only wish that motion-activated sprinklers were a thing when this was going on. It would have been perfect to use for them. But finally, as if a miracle from heaven, she just stops appearing. The ruts start to heal, and my beautiful wife cautiously plants a few cheap starters, and they eventually take in the garden. Sometime later, in conversing with the owner of the chickens, we learn that she is serving time. Apparently, she was using a great deal of illegal substances and had been caught holding enough stuff for them to take it fairly seriously. Her beautiful little baby still lives there. Grandma is now raising him, and they drive down once a week so he can see the chickens, which is honestly so much better than walking through our garden. How crazy is that? My first thought honestly was, is this lady on some kind of substance? Because I can't honestly think someone would act this crazy and still continue this action. If I was in that situation, I would absolutely be putting up cameras or an automatic sprinkler. That's a great idea. Because having someone like that trespassing on your property is already jarring enough. And to find out that it's happening while you're not even home is super scary. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea just to put up some kind of sprinkler system just in case this lady ever comes back. That way, if she does decide to walk through your yard, she'll get soaked in the process. And if that doesn't get the message across that she's not welcome there, then I really don't know what will. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. My husband is blaming me for Christmas being ruined, as he proceeded to yell at me in a way that I've never been talked to in our entire marriage, and now I really don't know what to do. So we've been married for about 8 months now, and this is our first Christmas together. He has 2 kids from a previous marriage, ages 5 and 7. He was supposed to have the kids for Christmas morning according to the custody order, but the little ones begged to stay with their mom. His ex does have a large family, and it was going to be a huge Christmas for them, with lots of cousins and grandparents, whereas my husband doesn't have any family nearby. I had done all the decorations and cooking like he wanted, but I had made desserts that I know how to bake, and not the cookies that the kids wanted, because I don't know how to make them. Since the divorce, every Christmas the kids have asked to stay with their mom, since that sounds more fun to them, and that has seriously been a painful point for him. I understand that, and so I put in a lot of work to try and make this as magical as we can for our home, but the kids still wanted to stay with their extended family, which is also something I empathize with. I myself come from a large family, and I totally understand how the kids feel. Also, the kids are so young, so they couldn't possibly understand how this would be so heartbreaking, and that's exactly what happened. My husband was heartbroken about all of it, and I tried to console him and make him happy. As Christmas morning rolled around, he was sad over all the unopened presents for his kids. I tried to distract him by pointing out that we could use this time to celebrate our relationship, but when I said that, he absolutely blew up on me. He called me a failure for my inability to make the cookies that they usually had, saying that this is the reason the kids didn't want to stay. He started screaming at me, saying that marrying me was a compromise, and that he married someone not in his league, just so his kids could have a good mother figure for once, implying that I am basically worthless because I couldn't even do something as simple as making some cookies. He then said some stuff about all the ways I'm lacking physically, and that he was just stuck with a prude for the rest of his life. And when he said this, I was so shocked. I simply just couldn't say anything. So I just got up, got my purse, and I left. I drove straight to my parents' house. We were supposed to arrive for dinner together, but everyone could see that something was wrong with me just showing up by myself. But I decided that I didn't want to tell anybody anything. I didn't want to ruin their Christmas. Eventually, my husband also shows up for dinner time and acted all pleasant and normal, as if nothing was wrong. He gave me my gift, which were some expensive earrings, and he was very charming to my family the entire night. When we got back, he went straight to bed, and now I've been sitting up thinking that there's no coming back from what he said to me. Would it be a mistake to quietly plan my exit? What should I do? This is actually quite terrible. The fact that your husband would freak out over something so small and then try and blame you for his kids leaving to go with his ex-wife is absolutely atrocious. It's not your fault that they chose to go with his ex-wife. So the fact that he's trying to pin that down on you is really disgusting in my opinion. And why on earth is he freaking out about these cookies? It sounds like he didn't even give you any kind of recipe for you to try and follow so that you could provide these cookies for your family. So you were clearly set up for failure from the beginning. So no, you are not to blame for the kids going off to the ex-wife. Because if he really wanted those stupid cookies ready for Christmas Day, he would have made them himself. I mean, what's stopping him from doing that? He probably knows the recipe, or can at least reach out to someone who probably does know it. And let's not also forget the fact that he literally showed up to dinner as if nothing was wrong. Like, imagine that. This guy freaks out on you, he throws this big temper tantrum, and then decides to try and make it sound like nothing happened, as well as giving you this gift, while also basically saying you're worthless for not knowing how to bake cookies. All of it just really comes off as creepy, and something that I honestly would not want in my life either. So if that's the decision you want to make, where you're like, you know what, I want to get out of here, then based on what you've described and the way he freaked out under the pressure, I can completely understand where you're coming from. I'm willing to guess that this is probably not an isolated incident, so it makes me believe that he probably has temper tantrums like this all the time, on top of the fact that he really tried to blame Christmas being ruined on you. So I think you need to take this at face value and know that you really have seen him at his worst, and this is probably his true colors overall. So I don't blame you in the slightest for deciding to step away, because you do not need this kind of energy in your life. I am convinced that Christmas is a curse for me, as something bad happens to me every single Christmas that I have, and at this point I don't know what to do. I'm gonna start off by saying that I don't much care about Christmas. Ever since becoming an adult, there's no fun in it for me. I'm an only child and my parents divorced, and there's no sense of family or togetherness this time of year, just financial stress, especially because I work in a hotel restaurant, and this time of year is really slow. I volunteer to work Christmas Eve and Christmas because most of my coworkers have kids, and I don't have any plans anyways. On the bright side, we actually were busier than we had been in weeks, probably because no one wanted to go outside because it was like 5 degrees. The restaurant is a sports bar type place. Things picked up later, but for the first hour or so, we were open and it was completely silent. Myself and the other server, as well as the host, busser, and the chef, were all standing at the front of the restaurant, having a good time talking, when the girl who works the front desk by the name of Tyra starts screaming the word no over and over again. And at first, I thought it was just a bit, like her sports team had lost and she just found out or something like that. But her screaming really was real. She ran across the lobby screaming and almost collapsed, but the chef caught her. She was on a call on her cell phone, and the chef put it on speaker to try and figure out what was wrong. And it turns out that her dad had unexpectedly passed away. She just kept crying and saying no, not today. The chef tried to talk to her while I got her some water and found a blanket and housekeeping to give her because she was shaking so badly. There was a guest in the lobby waiting for a ride, and she came up and thanked me as well as the rest of us for being so kind and being a family towards her. After that occurred, I could not get in the zone for the rest of my shift. I excused myself to go smoke and cry for a few minutes once Tyra got a ride to pick her up. My mom has stage 4 breast cancer, and I know I will probably get the same call at some point. Last Christmas, I was working as a dog walker and a dog sitter, and a previously healthy, rambunctious, and adorable kitten also passed away unexpectedly. My boss at the time was a complete jerk about it and treated it just like an inconvenience. So I ended up spending Christmas and the weeks following consoling the owner who had gotten COVID and couldn't come home. It was an absolute nightmare dealing with this, and it feels like Christmas is just cursed because of it. The saddest part to me is that earlier, Tyra had asked if I had an iPhone charger because her phone was almost out of battery. I didn't at the time, but I did help her find one in the first place. And you know what? She wouldn't have even gotten that call if we didn't find a charger. I don't know the circumstances or anything like that, but maybe that would have been better. Maybe it would have been better for her to find out at home or something like that. One of my coworkers mentioned that it would have been wise if the person calling her just said that there was an emergency and then give her the news in person. And honestly, I really do agree. I just feel so bad, and I'm not a hugger at all, but I want to give her a big hug so badly and at least do something nice for her, but I don't know what to do. Honestly though, I just hate Christmas, and I just can't wait for this holiday to be done. What a tragic situation. I cannot imagine having my loved one pass away on Christmas, or even having this kind of bad luck with this original poster where it seems like something bad always happens on Christmas. That's not fair for you in the slightest, but hopefully in the future you're able to at least take some time off work and instead have some time to yourself, even if you don't celebrate the holiday at all, because what you've dealt with in the past really is unfair. And I think if anything, just make it a vacation in the future. That way you can at least begin to enjoy it. My wife of 7 years and my sister are no longer on speaking terms. terms. And at this point, I don't know what to do to try and mend this relationship. I have a very intense sister with very poor boundaries. My sister and wife had a major fallout about 3 years ago. Back then, my wife and I had a disagreement, and my sister jumped to defend me. My wife politely asked her to stay out of it, but my sister refused and started yelling at my wife. My wife then went into the bedroom and closed the door behind herself to avoid a major fight, but my sister followed her to yell at her in our bedroom, where my infant son was sleeping. My wife lost it at this point and yelled back at her to not wake up my son and to get out, stating that she was crazy. So ever since then, my wife and my sister won't talk any longer, both insisting the other is at fault. My wife says she doesn't want a toxic person like my sister in her life any longer. She said she had devoted hours daily to my sister's garbage for years, who called my wife several times a day to complain about her life and my parents. Now she says she won't do it any longer. My wife also uses the incident when my sister almost got us kicked out of our wedding hotel as a reason to be done with her. For some context, back then, my sister's room was 15 minutes late, and she yelled some swear words at the hotel manager, who wanted to kick us out for her behavior. My wife handled it back then and managed to convince the manager by begging him not to throw us out. I was not around to help as I was swimming in the pool. My parents were there, but didn't feel like dealing with my sister as she was so intense. So it was all up to my wife to handle her. Now, my wife says that she has had it with my sister and uses plenty of examples why, such as the wedding and also the time my sister threatened to never let me see my niece and nephew again because I allowed my East to eat pancakes when they were camping. As a fun fact, he is not allergic to it, but my sister doesn't like him to eat gluten because she thinks that it's very unhealthy for him. So for the past 3 years, I have gone on vacation with my family without my wife. I usually fly to where my family is, and my wife stays home. Now, for the second time, my sister invited me and my son, who's only 3 years old, to a beach vacation without my wife. I told my sister I maybe could come, but would need to talk to my wife first. My wife was upset that I even considered it, again just like last year, but says I should do whatever I feel is right in my heart, but many people would think that this is inappropriate. My wife doesn't agree with me that they are both at fault for the current situation, but instead just blames my sister for it. She is open to amends, but insists that my sister at least takes responsibility for just one of her actions and apologizes, which we all know my sister will never do. Just asking her could lead to a major fallout with her. So I always tried my wife to be the bigger person, but she doesn't agree. She says my whole family is enabling my sister by just letting her do whatever she wants, because otherwise she gets so angry and crazy, and we just wouldn't want to deal with that. The sad part is that I agree with some of what my wife is saying. My sister had periods where she would not talk to anybody in the family due to her intense personality. My own mother chose not to talk to my sister for about a year, but I wish my wife would be the bigger person so my kids can play with their cousins, which are my sister's kids. I don't even care that much about my sister, but I really do want my kids to know about their cousins. My wife says that our children will have no negative impact if they didn't get to meet their cousins once a year, who are considerably older and live very far away. She points out that even when she was still putting up with my sister and we were living an hour away from her, we didn't spend much time with her kids more than twice a year, as it always had to suit my sister's schedule, which is very busy with her rich lifestyle of traveling the world first class, along with having private luxury rentals with maids and cooks and all this other stuff. Overall, I'm not sure what to do. I talked to my mom a lot about this, and my mom had tried to get my wife to admit her fault in all of this, and to get my wife to reach out to my sister. But now, my mother and I are just at the point of giving up that these two will ever get along, as it will basically have to come from my wife, who says that she's too busy and tired with 2 small kids and a full-blown job to have a toxic and energy-draining person like my sister in her life. This has caused a lot of stress in my marriage and many fights, but my wife stays firm with her boundaries, no matter how much I tell her to just do this for me if she loves me. My wife does a lot for my parents and other family members. She is the one who plans visits to make sure our kids know their grandparents, so it's not like she is jealous of my family and wants them cut out of my life. It all only goes back to my sister. What should I do? Your wife in this scenario is 100% correct. Even now, with you trying to settle this dispute, it all comes down to you trying to avoid your sister and trying to basically force your wife to say she's sorry for something that she didn't even cause. cause. Literally, your sister is being enabled by your behavior as well as your family's behavior to be this toxic, unstoppable person. So her boundaries are not only not ridiculous, but they are absolutely needed. And the fact that you've gone on vacation with them and you've agreed to any kind of vacation with your sister after the way she talked to your wife is mind-boggling to me. You're not asking your wife to be the bigger person. You are literally asking to turn off her rational brain and expose her children and herself to this abuse. Like, that's not okay. Your sister from the outside looking in sounds like an absolute toxic nightmare, and your wife has clearly put up with enough of her garbage. If anything, you are definitely being the jerk here, and you need to stop enabling your sister and flip the script and be like, you know what? No, this is your fault. And it seems like there's a pattern here of your sister being really toxic and everybody else having to apologize for it. I mean, how is that fair for your wife? Sure, you've got a lifetime of experience with that, but that does not mean that your wife has to be dragged into your weird form of enablement. So honestly, you need to get a grip. And telling your wife that if you love me, you'll just apologize is unbelievably toxic, and you really need to check yourself, because that is honestly just manipulative. And if anything, I think you need to admit to yourself that you are part of this problem and not your wife, who's just trying to raise her kids and have some semblance of a good marriage. An entitled Karen mistreats me on Christmas, claiming that I was refusing her service and treating me with absolute disrespect. But as a result, my manager forces her to leave, resulting in her getting blacklisted from our restaurant as well as the hotel that I work in. And I honestly could not be more satisfied. Here's what happened. So this happened yesterday. I'm a barkeeper in a hotel, and I have been for nearly 5 years now. I used to be full-time, but have had to go to part-time due to personal reasons. Still, my team really seems to care about me, and this is something that was really solidified for me yesterday with how they rallied to my aid. The Christmas shift is wildly considered to be the easiest shift of the year for us, especially in this hotel, as everything is booked in advance. The food is all pre-ordered, and 0 last-minute reservations or walk-ins will be taken on the day. The atmosphere is always great, and we are frequently getting told by our customers about how good of a job we are doing and how we're really making their Christmas special. We all basically went about our work with a constant warm fuzzy feeling. That is until 10 minutes before the end of my shift. An entitled Karen comes into the bar, and if this lady had a theme song to go along with her, it would be Cold as Ice by Foreigner. She stared daggers into my soul before I was even able to open my smiling mouth to greet her. The following is a recreation of the exchange that we had to the best of my recollection. She takes one look at me and says, "I would like the wine list, please." So I respond to her by saying, "Okay, that's no problem." Although I should say that we don't actually have an independent wine list per se, as much as a dedicated page within our whole drinks menu. And before I could even go further, she interrupts me by saying, "You have got to be kidding me." She didn't shout this, but the way she articulated her words pierced my soul, and I felt myself shrink under her oppressive gaze. I should also add that I'm an extremely anxious person, and confrontation has always left me close to tears and a sick feeling in my stomach. Regardless, I carried on, hoping that we'd just gotten off to the wrong foot. I grabbed the menu for her and presented it to her. She snatched it from me, glances through it, and points to the wine page titled Wine. "What does this say?" she demands whilst pointing at the title. I reply simply by saying, "Well, that's wine," thanking the gods that my voice was steady in the moment. "And what is this?" she snarls, while gesticulating at the full menu. I respond by saying, "Well, this is a menu, or I suppose a list." At this point, the whole bar was silent. The jovial atmosphere had completely dissipated. I can't remember what she said after this, but the general gist is that she was ridiculing me and claiming I was refusing her a wine list when she asked for it. Finally, I decided I had had enough. "Ma'am, I am not going to stand here and be abused by you. If you want a drink, then you may speak to one of my colleagues, but I will not be serving you." And with that, I walked away. No one ended up serving her. I told the manager what I'd experienced, and she was furious. She marched into the bar and told the woman to leave the hotel. She said it was Christmas for us too, and that we are servers, not servants. Ultimately, my manager gave the woman 3 options. She said, "You can either return to your room and stay there for the duration of your visit, interacting with none of my staff, or you can leave the hotel and look for somewhere else to stay, or you can get your coat and I would be happy to drive you home right then and there. No refund or being barred from the establishment." The woman actually only lived 20 minutes away. She chose option 2 and actually has been barred anyways and blacklisted on booking websites. The whole team rallied around me when this happened just to try and comfort me and tell me that I did the right right thing by walking away. I really felt appreciated and valued by my coworkers. I went on to have a lovely Christmas after that with my family, and I got some super cool D&D related presents. So it was a pretty good day, but I could have done without the sour taste left in my mouth by that situation at the end of an otherwise amazing shift. What an entitled, rude Karen. She comes up on a Christmas day and seriously decides to start treating these servers like garbage. And that's honestly so unfair. Like, she did not have to act like that in the slightest. She very easily could have been grateful and to some degree treated this server with some kind of respect. So good for you for standing up to this entitled Karen, because this lady was being incredibly ridiculous, and there's no reason for you or anybody else to stand there and take that garbage for even a second. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. An entitled Karen loses her mind when she finds out that we don't have any juice for our breakfast cafe. So as some revenge, she decides to have her kids steal all the candy canes off of our Christmas tree that sits in our front lobby. Here's what happened. So our breakfast cafe is right across the lobby from our front desk, and as such, I can usually hear pretty much everything going on over there. And that was the case this morning. I could hear a female guest arguing with my breakfast attendant, although I couldn't quite make out what they were arguing about. A few minutes later, a guest came to the front desk with a kid to say that we were all out of juice in the cafe. I wanted to respond and say that I knew this already because there has been a sign on the machine for a few weeks now stating that very thing, but instead I apologized and said that our supplier was out the last time we placed an order, and all flavors of juices are on back order. Needless to say, she was not a happy camper. She looked over into our gift shop, which is right next to the front desk, and asked if she could have some of the juice from the cooler. I asked her, what juice are you talking about, as we don't have any juice for sale in there. She said, the pure leaf juice. I told her that was tea, and that all the items in the cooler were only for sale. And when I said that to her, boy did she throw a hissy fit. She went on to say that there was nothing over in the cafe for her child to drink, and she wasn't going to give her kid coffee as it's too dangerous. I then go tell her that we do have milk and water, both available in the cafe itself, to which she then replies by saying, my baby doesn't like milk. I then glance down at her baby, and this kid is easily 12 or 13 years old. Once again, I just apologized, but told her that if she wanted something out of our gift shop, she would have to pay for it. She had a few more choice words for me, but she did eventually buy a sweet tea and a can of soda. As they were walking away, this entitled Karen's child asked if she could have a candy cane from our Christmas tree, and I told her that yeah, she could take one, and then I turned back to doing what I was doing before at the front desk. About 30 minutes later, I had to go out to the lobby to put luggage carts back in place that a guest just left sitting in the middle of the lobby. As I walked past the Christmas tree, I looked and I noticed that there were no candy canes left on the tree. Earlier in the night, I literally hung about 30 candy canes on that tree. Since only a few people had been through the lobby, and since I told the girl that she could take one, the only thing I can figure is that this little brat took all the candy canes from the tree. So since mama couldn't get her way, I'm really starting to believe that taking all the candy canes was her best way of getting revenge. And honestly, the more people I'm around, the more I tend to like my dog just a little bit more. It's always so weird to me how people can make such a big deal out of something that someone doesn't have at a store. Like, sorry, we're out of juice. I literally can't do anything about it. Like, what do you expect me to do? Drive to Florida, come back with some oranges, and then make orange juice for you on the spot? Like, let's get serious here for a second. Instead of just accepting that, hey, maybe they just don't have any of this in stock, this entitled Karen decided to be just that, an entitled Karen who just wanted to be weird. And it's bad enough that the front desk has to deal with all these weird people on a daily basis, let alone have to put up with these Karens. But to then be berated for something that is literally outside of their control, in my opinion, is just super weird. So hopefully this lady enjoys all those candy canes she stole. And hopefully the next time she deals with somebody in customer service, she has a little bit better of an attitude when things don't go exactly how she wants it to go. Because the way she talked to this front desk attendant was super inappropriate, and honestly just overall pretty obnoxious. My extended family is claiming that we are ruining Christmas because my husband and I are choosing to not show up due to an illness that they are trying to hide. And at this point, I don't know what to do. So for some background, my husband and I have been married for 4 years. I moved to his native country just to be with him. His parents have been generally cordial, but pretty lukewarm towards me for the most part. I have been okay with this up to this point because I have a terrible set of parents with whom I communicate with very little, so I'm used to not ideal parental relationships. He and I had been planning my 30th birthday abroad because I don't have a ton of friends here yet, and my family generally forgot my birthday. He didn't want my 30th birthday to be painful as usual, so we planned to make it a fun experience abroad. My father-in-law and my husband were at a gathering a few days ago, and my father-in-law mentioned in passing that my mother-in-law had the flu for the last few days. My husband told me that as well as an offhand comment, and he said this just very nonchalant since I wasn't at the event. I was surprised at this cavalier attitude towards this, because we are supposed to be traveling abroad on January 2nd to celebrate my 30th birthday, which we have been planning for several months. I told him that I didn't want to risk it. Christmas happens every year, and if worse comes to worse, we can always just FaceTime them. We talked it out for a while, and we decided to cancel. My mother-in-law then acted like it was a big joke at first. Like, of course you are coming to Christmas. We do this every year. She also tried to explain how she didn't actually have the flu. She had just been bedridden with a fever for the last 3 to 5 days. She also somehow thought that telling us that other family members had been quite ill and had been going to their family events anyways would somehow convince us to go. I explicitly told my husband not to make a snap decision on the phone with his mom because he isn't awesome at boundaries with her. While on the phone with her, I heard him say, yeah, we will probably be coming to Christmas, but she and I will have to discuss it first. And this really upset me. I felt like he set me up against them. We end up talking, and he does eventually agree with me that us missing the birthday due to illness is dumber than not going to Christmas. He calls back and tells them that we aren't coming, and when they got this information, they acted reserved, and they seemed to respect the decision. The father-in-law then came over to deliver uncooked dinner and presents, which was weird, but whatever. We made dinner and opened presents, which is extremely strange and felt kind of painful. I would have just rather waited, but it is what my husband's parents wanted. We then called to discuss and check in with them. His sister was over there too at this point. They were all significantly more angry about the situation. His mother said at one point, I hope it was worth it, and everyone was generally passive-aggressive about it. His sister then got on the phone and tried to debate levels of contagiousness with us, that my mother-in-law is older and more prone to illness, and that we are young and healthy, that they live in a house with high ceilings. At this point, I thought it was extremely silly, and that we had clearly made the right choice if your chosen debate points are semantics about contagiousness. They then basically said that if we come tomorrow, that they will then leave this all behind. My husband kind of joked like, yeah, we'll see. He calls again this morning to let them know that we aren't coming, not only because my mother-in-law has been sick, but because she admitted to us that several of the other relatives joining for today had also been sick. He tries, rather poorly, to explain that he wants to prioritize my birthday because I don't have a family that cares too much about me, and that birthdays are generally very painful. This one feels important, maybe arbitrary, sure, but I am turning 30. They were very upset and ended the conversation by saying, we just hope that you are able to enjoy your life too. This really hurt my feelings and poked right at a fear point I have, which is that I am somehow controlling my husband because he is apparently so easy to manipulate. And that just is the truth. His mom and his sisters do it to him constantly. I want him to be able to stand up for himself. He is kind and wants to believe the best about everyone. At this point, I want to return all the presents. I want to cut off contact. I want to basically never attend any events with any of them ever again. That does feel very reactionary at this point, but honestly, I don't know what to do and I'm kind of at a loss. The fact that your extended family is trying to imply that you're ruining Christmas by avoiding a bunch of sick people is really disturbing. Like, you're right, I'm with you guys 100% on this one. Christmas comes every year, and you're trying to protect your physical and mental health. So avoiding them and saying, you know what, I want to prioritize this birthday in January is, in my opinion, not that big of a deal. And the fact that they're making it a big deal and trying to argue with you and put you down for choosing to stay away is altogether a really big red flag that basically confirms you made the right choice. So truly, I just would not give this another thought. I think also maybe talking to your husband about standing up for you and protecting your interests and your reputation would really go a long way, because his first initial instinct was to throw you under the bus instead of just making a decision himself. And that's just not fair. Him backpedaling really made you look terrible. So hopefully this all works out for you, and just know that you don't have to put up with this kind of garbage. Because if these people are gonna be toxic, then they can expect less and less of you and your husband as the years go on. And I don't think that's you trying to control your husband, because if anything, they're the ones pushing you away, and not the other way around. Today, I messed up by thinking my grandfather would become a part of my family again, but he just came back in and he continued to act like the same toxic person that he is. and I'm honestly so exhausted and unfortunately not surprised. Here's what happened. So to start things off, my dad's family is an absolute joke. My dad's father hasn't been in our lives at all after my dad had enough of his garbage because he was a terrible father and extorted money from my dad. We last had contact just after I was born 21 years ago. 2 years ago, he contacted us again and tried to become a part of the family again, so we gave him a chance. I have now met him 3 times in person, but he has been very inconsistent with contact and just not been great still. But we have been helping him out and giving him things. My uncle still lives with his mother, and despite being in his late 40s, he has never done anything for himself and leeches off of her. He is always complaining about everything and acts like a big baby. Recently, he ended up in the hospital most of the year and over Christmas because of deteriorating health. Because he doesn't exercise, he has diabetes, he drinks energy drinks and smokes, and eats terribly and too much. And worst of all, his elderly mother enables all of it and doesn't do anything to actually help him or herself. And she is the one who is constantly feeding him like this. So I am saying all this because this week was his birthday. We went to an expensive pub for a meal and to be together as a family, and his father came too, as they had been reacquainted. Now, as a side note, as this will be relevant later, his father drives a large London cab. So the meal went mostly fine, but we still were not too impressed with their attitudes and some things that they said. My grandma had been complaining that we had not invited her to come to Christmas, while my other grandmother is. The reason for this is that my other grandma is going to be completely alone this year, as she normally goes to my aunt's, but she won't be able to go this year, and she no longer has any friends left in her retirement home. But my nan, who's the current grandma complaining, normally just goes to her friend's daughter's place anyways. So we invited them to come along for a meal and hang out. And surprise, surprise, they just canceled on us a couple of hours ago. And this is after we spent all this money preparing ingredients and getting supplies as well as things together for this meal. I even had to help get a bunch of things out of the loft and ended up bashing my head on a heavy box that slipped and fell on me, leaving a small lump on my head. I then injured myself falling down the stairs while trying to bring a spare chair downstairs. I slipped on a step and I couldn't even see where I was going. And then, to top it all off, we had to move a huge heavy kitchen table into the living room for more space sideways so it would get through the door. And I think I damaged my arm doing that because I positioned it badly, causing a lot of strain, and it has been hurting a ton ever since. So we moved everything around the house around this event, expecting them to show up, and it literally all came for nothing, as they canceled on us at the last minute. Now, apparently, the reason for canceling was because my dad's father doesn't want to drive all this way now, giving some BS excuse. And then my uncle made up an excuse, saying that he won't go to my nan's car because he wants the room to stretch his legs that he gets in his father's cab. My dad then told them all to pretty much just stuff it, and is blocking his father now, claiming we gave him a chance and he just lost it. All of this work, all of this anxiety, all of this change of plans just before Christmas, and it all ended up for nothing. What an absolute nightmare. These people really do sound like a basket case. If it's not one excuse, it's another, and these people have definitely blown their last chance to have any relationship with you or your family. I mean, this is just crazy. They really didn't want to show up last second, all because they didn't want to drive here or whatever other excuse they came up with. And by the way, this is after the fact that they're like, okay, you didn't get invited, sure, let's invite you over. They make plans, they literally move heaven and earth to make sure that there's enough room for everybody involved. And then at the last second, they cancel. Well, fantastic. All that complaining they did was literally for nothing. And that's so unfair for the original poster and their family. They are incredibly toxic, and I don't blame you for a second for cutting them out of your life. My friend betrayed my trust and hit on a girl that I met off of Tinder in the middle of our date. And as a result, they secretly started dating behind my back, essentially taking her away from me and in the process betraying my trust completely. And now I don't know what to do. So I'm really struggling with a situation that just happened. I met this girl on Tinder a few weeks ago and we hit it off right away. We went on a few dates and I really thought there was something special between us. We had great conversations, we shared similar interests, and had a lot of fun together. But everything changed when I invited her to come with my friend and me to go out and get some drinks. One thing led to another, and my friend ended up making a move on this girl, which was shocking enough in and of itself. But even worse, she went along along with it, and they started secretly dating. I had no idea until my friend came to me today and told me that they were going on vacation together. And when I found out, I was absolutely devastated. I thought this girl and I had a real connection, and I couldn't believe that my friend would do something like this behind my back. I confronted him about it, and he basically said that since this girl and I had not started dating officially, I didn't have a right to get mad at him. But I feel like I was betrayed in more ways than one. Not only did my friend steal the girl I was interested in, but he also lied to me and kept it a secret. To make matters even worse, I just started sharing a lease with this friend. So now I'm stuck living with someone who has betrayed me, and I'm not sure how to move forward. I don't care about the girl, but I feel like my friend really let me down. I'm not sure if I should just cancel the lease and move out, or if there's another way that we can work through this. I don't know how to deal with this, and I'm really unsure about how to approach this situation. Do I have a right to be upset? What should I do? Your friend is a piece of garbage. The fact that he made a move on somebody you were already just starting to date is really toxic. And in my opinion, that's just not something I would ever want to live in. Like, imagine living in that environment where he's basically always bringing this girl over. It's just this constant reminder that he went behind your back and betrayed your trust. And I think at this point, you can hardly even call this guy your friend, because no real friend would do what they did in this situation. I mean, it's almost like he saw his opportunity the second you introduced her to him, and he actually has the audacity to make a move and hit on her during the middle of your date. I mean, how gross is that? So if I was in your situation, I would absolutely cancel the lease and move out. I would not want to live with him in any way, shape, or form. In my opinion, you don't need someone like that around you all the time. I personally feel like the hassle of moving out will be well worth it in the long run when you don't have to see this guy every day in your living space. So that's what I would do personally if I was in this situation. But what would you do? How would you feel if your friend made a move on someone you were trying to date? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled and crooked landlord tried to scam me out of $2,000, claiming that I had damaged his roof beyond repair after I fixed it out of desperation because they refused to even touch it in the first place. But I put them in their place in a spectacular and meticulous fashion, threatening to basically sue them into oblivion. Here's what happened. So this story happened to my wife and I about 10 years ago. We had been married for about 4 years at this point and decided to move from an apartment to a rental house. It wasn't fancy. It was a post-war era house on a quarter-acre lot, but we really thought it had a lot of charm. It was a little more money than we had paid for the apartment, but it was kind of a trial for being homeowners. The lessons I learned then have really helped me now that we own our own house today. The house was managed by a property management firm that was just a few blocks down the road. When we first looked at it, the previous tenants were still there and were very nice. They were an older artistic couple, and they had made a few small changes to the house, like a small raised garden in the front yard. We told the landlord to just leave it and that we would love to use it. The backyard was a bit overgrown, but it felt like the secret garden. We thought we would just clean it up for a bit and that it wouldn't be that big of a deal. There was a back building my wife wanted to use for an art studio, and it needed some cleaning, but it was big and even had a half bathroom in it. I did notice that the roof was also missing some shingles. It was about 10 square feet that was cut out, not damaged or blown away, and it was cut with clean lines. I don't know why anyone would do this, but I asked the landlord, "So you're going to fix that before we move in, right?" And she said, "Oh yeah, of course." We decided to go ahead with the rental. We signed the lease and we set the date to move in. However, when we actually moved in, reality finally set in. We discovered that they removed the garden boxes and did a really bad job replacing it with sod. It was lumpy, with large spaces between each piece of sod. I asked them why they removed the boxes, and they said it was in their contract with that tenant to return the house to its original condition. I was annoyed, but I was okay. I ended up fixing the grass myself later. I also noticed that the roof had not been fixed yet. I asked the landlord about it, and she said she would look into it. Me, being the trusting person that I am, accepted this for right now, which is a bad move. It was the summertime, so I knew it wasn't an emergency yet. I will get back to this point later. We started cleaning out the backyard and the studio building. We quickly discovered that it wasn't just overgrowth, but a huge pile of garbage and debris that had ivy and blackberry bushes growing all over it. We contacted the landlord, and after applying some pressure, got them to clean it up. It was probably 1 to 2 literal tons of old wood, a keg, broken garden supplies, and a lot more. And it was all just rotting back there. The landlord had it cleaned, but complained literally literally the entire time that it didn't bother the previous tenants and how much money it was costing them. We finished cleaning out the studio and found literal boxes of dirt. The building ended up not having any windows that could open, so I ended up adding an exhaust fan just to get some airflow. It was pretty gross now that I think back on it. We found some rodent droppings in the attic, and we did mention this to the landlord too, but they ignored me. When I pushed, they informed me that the back building wasn't technically part of the rental, so they wouldn't be doing anything. This was utter BS, since they included the half batch and the square footage in the advertisement. They also included photos of it too. I told them I would take care of it myself if they wouldn't. At this point, they surprised me. The landlord came over to the house and offered to let us out of the lease with no penalty. She said, "You obviously don't seem happy here, so maybe it would be best if you found another place to live." Obviously, they were just getting annoyed that we were costing them money for some pretty serious maintenance issues, and they didn't want to deal with them. This was them just trying to get rid of us. Maybe in hindsight, I should have just taken the deal, but we had just moved there and spent all this time and money fixing it up, so we declined the offer. I had cleaned up and rodent-proofed the studio myself, and the yard was all cleaned up. I even pressure washed the house and discovered an old walkway that had been overgrown with moss. We did some serious improvements to this place just by cleaning it. A couple of months later, and we start getting into the fall. The roof was still not fixed, and I started getting concerned about the weather. We get a lot of rain where I live, and I knew that this was a big deal with my experience in construction. I reached out again, and they informed me that they would not be fixing it since a roofer they worked with said it didn't need to be fixed. And at that point, I was shocked that anyone called themselves a roofer and would think that a 10 square foot patch of missing shingles was okay. It did have felt paper down, so a little rain wasn't a big deal, but going into the fall and winter, this would be a problem. I vented to my neighbor next door about how the landlord didn't want to fix it, and he told me that he had some extra shingles in his garage. He gives some to me, and I decide to just fix it myself, because screw those guys. And what happened next absolutely blew my mind. After a few weeks, I get a call from my landlord. She asked me if I fixed the roof, because she drove by and saw that it had been fixed. I told her I did and explained my reasoning and how I got the material. She didn't say much, but said that she was going to have a roofer inspected. I told her to go right ahead, thinking that she just wanted to make sure I did a good job. The roofer comes over a couple of days later, spends 15 minutes there, and then just leaves. A week later, I get a letter in the mail with a bill for $2,000. They claimed I damaged the roof and that it would cost $2,000 for the roofer to fix it. They also said the roofer had claimed that the felt paper was adequate protection from the weather. I mean, are you kidding me? I was so enraged and immediately drove to their office and demanded a meeting with my rep and the owner of the company. The rep wouldn't see me, but the owner came out. She was a middle-aged woman with some kind of disability. She informed me that they couldn't meet right then, but that we could make an appointment and I could come back later. We made an appointment for 2 days from then, and I prepared for the worst. First, I took photos. I made printouts of all of our conversations and even a timeline for the events. I knew this was about to be more than just the roof. It was retaliation for making them actually take care of their property. Next, I looked up the property management company and their roofing contractor. The contractor had poor reviews and a few violations with OSHA. The property management company had a good rating, which they were very proud of, but a lot of reviews online echoed similar stories that I was facing now. I immediately filed a complaint with the rating service and printed that out too. Next, I was able to look up the owner of the actual house. She was a doctor who lived in Ohio. I didn't contact her, but if things went south, I would reach out to her to let her know how her property was actually being managed by these bullies. Last, I read every word of my state and city landlord-tenant laws. In my area, it greatly favors the tenant, so I had that on my side. All of the issues they refused to deal with, like the rodents and the roof, were pretty clearly called out in the law. They absolutely were in the wrong, and I had the law on my side. When we finally met, it's just the owner, my rep, and myself. I informed them that I'm recording the conversation after we introduce ourselves. I start by letting them talk. They tell me why they were penalizing me, and they also mentioned that I didn't seem happy in the house, and how they offered me to leave before. I told them that moving wasn't an option for me, and that we would be finishing out our lease and not renewing. They were just going to have to deal with me in the meantime. I informed them that I had filed a complaint with the rating service, which seemed to really get their attention. Next, I laid out the entire timeline, promises made, and all our communications over the last several months, including the original posting and the lease for the house, which clearly show the studio as being part of the rental. We then talked about their supposed roofer. The roofer told them that I had severely damaged the roof of the house, and a huge section would now have to be replaced. He said that the felt paper was already providing plenty of protection from the weather, but I immediately called out that BS. I told them that I had replaced several roofs and had worked in construction for nearly 10 years professionally. There was no way that felt paper was adequate weatherproofing or that I had damaged the home. I told them to call any random roofer from the phone book right now and ask them if that was remotely true, but they declined to make that call. They then said, well, our roofer has over 25 years of experience. I responded by saying, I don't care how much experience he has. If he said I damaged the roof and that it's already weatherproofed, he's either an idiot or a crook. I then said that my rep had been unprofessional this entire time, lied to me several times, and was stupid to believe such an obvious lie from the roofer. They were stunned that I said this and told them I wouldn't pay them one dime for this obvious scam. He apparently also claimed that my rodent proofing damaged the studio roof as well. I told them that when we leave, I could remove all the rodent proofing and restore it back to the way it was. They agreed to this, but instead on having it inspected after. I told them to go right ahead, but to use a different roofer. Last, we went through the landlord-tenant laws. They first tried to dismiss as if they knew them better than me. However, I went to each section, showing how they are required to deal with rodents and making the building weatherproof. Having established that the roofer had lied or was stupid, I told them that I technically could deduct my time and the cost of materials out of my rent if I was really trying to be petty. If they pursued any of this BS with me, I would do so and would also sue them for harassment and violation on the law. When I was done, I decided to not waste any more of my time with them. Without letting them come up with any more BS, I left copies of all my paperwork with them and informed them that I would not be paying the fine and that I expect them to follow the law. I then stood up and left without another word. 1 week later, I got another letter in the mail saying that the fine is waived and that they would leave the roof as is. They did mention me removing the rodent proofing on the studio in the letter as well. Over the next several months, things were pretty quiet with them. Luckily, nothing else major happened, and we prepared to move out when our lease ended. I didn't want to give them my actual new address, so I got a P.O. box just for them. A week after we moved out and turned in our keys, I get a letter from them. The letter simply stated that the studio passed inspection, and it included a check for the full amount of our deposit. They obviously just wanted me gone. It's now been a long time, and that experience taught me a lot about working within the law and working with difficult people. But it begs the question, am I the jerk for putting these crooked landlords in their place? So this story came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit, and if you're interested in submitting your own stories, check the link in the description. But this original poster is definitely not the jerk. If anything, they are absolutely the hero of this story. I mean, they came in there prepared. They had everything lined out, and they knew exactly what they were doing. The amount of detail and absolute meticulous work that you did is unbelievably stunning, and you seriously deserved every penny that you got reimbursed. Those landlords were clearly crooked. You're right. They were absolutely trying to punish you for saying, hey, you want to clean up your stupid property? So good for you for standing up and saying, you know what? I'm not going to be put down like this. I mean, you really gave it to them in such a cool way. And it's fantastic to see that you came out on top and these crooked landlords got put right in their place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My girlfriend struggles with insecurity, but still demands that we get married on a timeline. And despite my efforts to try and solve our situation and make us have a trusting and loving relationship, she is still refusing to work with me. And at this point, I simply don't know what to do. So I'm a 30-year-old male, and I've been dating my beautiful and kind-hearted girlfriend for almost 2 years now. And we are at a stage where engagement might be in our near future. Unfortunately, things have been falling apart for the last couple of months due to our disagreements about whether we are ready to take that step or not. So for the past 2 years, I have been working from home in my small apartment. During this time, she has spent most of her time here at my place and goes home to her apartment just to clean up or feed her cats. Her sleep schedule is poor because she is not in school or working. For the most part, this has been fine, as I do enjoy her company. In our first year, there weren't many issues. She had skipped a few semesters of college, but I figured that she would either go back to school or start a new program or find a job whenever whenever she was ready. I tried to encourage her and come up with ideas for interesting programs or jobs. We also didn't really fight much during this period. We would go on little day trips or hang out with her friends, and we never talked much about marriage or kids. Our second year has had a lot of ups and downs. On the plus side, we have met each other's families and friends. We've been on a ton of really incredible trips, including hiking, camping, bird watching, and she has done so many nice things for me, decorating her place and cooking for my birthday, bringing me souvenirs from her trips with her travel buddy, as well as bringing me lunch when I'm working sometimes, and much more. On the other hand, this year has been marked by near constant fights, roughly 2 a week, which happen almost entirely over text messaging, despite my frequent attempts to take the conversation offline. Only recently have I started to understand that she is a near textbook case of anxious attachment. Fights would break out almost any time we were apart. For example, if I saw my friends, went to write an exam, stayed with my family too long without texting, or went to a work event, her questions about what I'm doing would often immediately turn into accusations. Once I recognized the signs of a nervous text message from her, the ensuing fight seemed inevitable, even if my responses were not defensive. It got to a point where an angry face emoji from her could make my stomach sink and my adrenaline spike, because I knew that the next 24 hours or more would be an absolute nightmare. I knew that I would not be able to get her to agree to meet up with me and just talk things over. I hoped that these situations would become less frequent over time, as she continued to see that I was loyal and committed, and that I had no eyes for anyone else. I thought we had lots of time to work on these issues. Unfortunately, we had an unexpected pregnancy. She has not been on birth control during our relationship, and foolishly, I got used to the habit of not using protection, if you know what I mean. The following month has been tense. I was afraid of having a child in that situation. We have poor finances, we have frequent fights, we're not married, and her education is not complete. And we are still in the exact same situation right now. And with all that in consideration, I have to admit, in my panic, I pushed very hard for her to consider if medically we should prevent this child from coming into our lives, if you know what I mean. But I didn't do this in a harsh way, but instead I was rational about it, and told her that having a baby right now would interfere with finishing school, and we would be raising a baby in relative poverty, and that this baby might witness our frequent arguments. In the end, she got it done, since she agreed that it was too early for us. I was there with her during the painful cramps in the hours after she took the pill, and after that, things seemed to go back to normal for a little bit. About a month later, she started to bring up the idea of marriage and kids. In a way, it made sense. We were coming up on the 2-year mark, and we very nearly just had a kid together. I was hesitant to agree to any engagement plans, given that we were still fighting very often, but the topic was pretty new to me, so I wanted to try and be open-minded. I wanted to be optimistic, and I wanted to believe that we could improve things fast if we just tried our hardest. I ended up agreeing to a Valentine's Day engagement deadline on my condition that we go to therapy and stop having fights over text messaging. In the following weeks, on her insistence, the Valentine's Day deadline changed to Christmas. Again, I hesitantly agreed, given that she was willing to postpone having kids until her education was complete. In September and October, she definitely made some serious attempts to be peaceful with me. She seemed more open to meet with me in person to resolve arguments. She was willing to apply for some part-time jobs, and we had our first 2 therapy sessions, which were very productive. It was great to have a third party who could see our issues clearly, and my girlfriend was great. The therapist was impressed that we both seemed mindful of our own weaknesses. Unfortunately, after a few terrible text arguments, one of which lasted over a week, in late October, I decided that we had failed the Christmas engagement goal. Things were still incredibly volatile, and we would need more than a few weeks to be ready to make a lifelong commitment to each other. Following this, she understandably lost her motivation to do therapy with me, but we managed to stay together until Christmas anyway. What made me decide that we weren't ready for engagement this year wasn't simply the frequency and the length of the text message fights, but the particular things that she is capable of saying over text messages when she feels justified by her feelings of anxiety or abandonment. When she's angry, she will accuse me over text message of flirting or cheating on her, and she will tell me to get lost and go find someone else, as well as just laugh sarcastically, or worst of all, tell me that she hates me, which absolutely devastates me. I have never said I hate you to her or any loved one. I think she grew up saying it to her mom sometimes, and so she figures that I will similarly just brush it off. As of recently, during fights, she has also started texting that she'll find someone else who will not just string her along. I feel pretty strongly that I'm not trying to string her along. I think that wanting us to have a peaceful relationship of mutual trust before we get engaged is very different from purposefully stringing someone along. That being said, I understand that my agreeing to an engagement date must have got her hopes up in some way, even if I was clear that the deadline was conditional on us making a lot of progress. At this point, as of Christmas Day, we are sort of broken up. I want to fix things and get us on a more realistic path to engagement, a plan that is more progressive based without a hard deadline. That sort of plan would allow us to simply continue to enjoy our time together while working on ourselves and strengthening our feelings of trust over time until we both feel secure. I know that she wants to fix things too, but I don't know if she'll accept any sort of compromise or new plan. I know that she would be happy if I showed up with an engagement ring tomorrow, but I don't think that would be wise. Even though I feel that she's the one, I want to find some way to make her agree to do the work before we decide to do any engagement plans. But recently, she has been crystal clear that she will not go back to therapy, she will not look for work, or hold back on her text fights unless I make a new promise to propose in the near future. I've spent countless hours recently writing a roadmap for us, writing all the things I can do better to stop triggering her fear and anxiety, and conversely, some things I would like her to keep working on too. I haven't been perfect, but I believe that I have been good to her. I continue to learn each day about the triggers for people with anxious attachment style, as well as a fear of abandonment. But even then, I still slip up. I give her full access to my devices, even though she guards her own phone. I'm committed to being the person who stays beside her as she conquers her fears, even knowing that her fears won't ever completely go away. I know that my girlfriend is a good person. I know that she loves me. I just wish I didn't have to remind myself of that fact in the moments when she says that she hates me. I want to support her in her daily life. I want her to have reasons to wake up in the morning, to have a job or classes to go to, and then to tell me about her day. I want to feel confident that she will start to care more about her own life, independent of whatever I'm doing. I would like to see that she is willing to pursue something and achieve it. I've been waiting for us to grow into a normal, healthy dynamic, but it still feels like we are so far off. What should I do? This is a messy situation. It sounds like your ex-girlfriend, from what you're describing, does not want to change, but instead just wants to get married and have kids. And I think you dodged a serious bullet with the previous kid you almost had, because this lady does not sound stable in the slightest. Like, she literally just does not want to improve her relationship. And it sounds like for literally half of your relationship, you have been arguing back and forth over and over again. So from my perspective, on the outside looking in, it just does not seem like this is a good relationship. And it's not like you haven't made some serious efforts to try and make this work. You've gone to therapy, you've written out a roadmap of some kind for the both of you to follow, you've tried to make amends and do everything right, but she's the one that's literally holding this back. Your girlfriend's codependent or something like that on you specifically. She has no ambitions and she doesn't really have a life. So I think you really need to take that into consideration moving forward, because marrying her and having kids is not going to change anything. She is still going to be that weird, jealous person who accuses you of cheating and tells you that she hates you. And if I was in your situation, I don't think that's someone I would personally want to be married to. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.